When I call your name, if you'll please come on up to the microphone, the one that's closest to the wall there. I'm going to tell you the reason why you've been detained, whether or not there's probable cause for that detention, and then I'll explain to you what your conditions of release will be, if there are any. We don't have court dates for every single case. The ones that we do have will say for you out loud. But if you hear the words on demand, that means it hasn't been scheduled yet. Just please make sure that you keep in touch with your lawyer or the clerk's office. If you get out of the jail, you're going to have a court date. You don't want to miss it, because then you'll end up back in jail on a failure to appear. We don't want that to happen. So please make sure that you keep in touch with your lawyer or the clerk. If you are still in custody when your next date comes around, we'll get you transported. So that's not a problem. All right, let's go ahead and start, please. Appearances from the state attorney.
Destiny Vargas for the state.
Thank you. From the public defender.
Christian Williams with the Public Defender's Office.
Thank you. And from pretrial release.
Tricia Jenkins, pretrial release.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to start with Kevin De Jesus Carret.
Your Honor, if we may, the jail staff is requesting to call Timothy Price first.
Okay, that's fine. Mr. De Jesus, siéntese otra vez un momento, por favor. You said Timothy Price?
Yes, sir.
Great. Yes, I remember reading it. I just have to find it in the stack. It's a large group today. So, there it is. Okay, Timothy Price, good morning, or good afternoon. Please say your name.
PD appointed.
Thank you. So, Mr. Price, you were arrested for occupied burglary, forced entry, criminal mischief, possession cocaine, possession paraphernalia, and violation of a no-contact order. I read the affidavit. There is probable cause. Looks like you're also out on a 33-day motion ROR in 23 CF 234. I looked that one up. I believe that was a 33-day motion. Anything from PTR?
History.
Yes.
Okay. From 2000 to 2005, battery, aggravated assault, larceny, dealing in stolen property, fraud. 2006 to 2013, larceny, fraud, burglary, trespass, vehicle theft, resisting officer without violence, battery on a LEO, failure to appear. He got a couple of failure to appears. 2014 to 2017, battery by strangulation, domestic violence, battery, ag assault with weapon, DUI, failure to appear. 2018, battery DV, disorderly conduct. 2019, resisting officer without violence, trespass. 2020, violation of domestic injunction. Violation of domestic injunction again. 2021, battery DV, battery DV. 2022, battery. 2022, battery again. And then what he's out on now, the 23 CF 234, he's out on ROR.
You may not know this, but if you do, I'm curious to know if any of those previous batteries, trespasses, did they involve the same address or the same victim in the case we have today?
The battery, yes.
Okay.
Victim.
All right, Mr. Price, count one, your bond is going to be stated at $5,000. Count two, your bond is going to be set at it's going to stay at $500. Count three, it's going to be stayed at $1,000. Count four, it will be stayed at $500. And count five will be set at $5,000.
Judge, she also has a resisting officer obstructed without violence.
And then count six will be stayed at 500. I just hadn't gotten there yet. No contact with the listed victim, no return to the scene, no weapons or firearms, abide by all orders of protection, any injunctions, any other no contact orders. Your next court date will be on demand.
Yes, are you gonna revoke the RO?
No. That's a 33-day motion. The state has not filed charges. It'll be up to the state to file a motion for pretrial detention if they feel they need one.
Next court date
Thank
on
you.
demand.
Okay, so we can go now just to the regular order of things?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I was told Mr. De Jesus needs an interpreter, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Kevin De Jesus Carret.
And the PD is appointed.
Thank you. You're gonna have to say that once the interpreter comes back. I'm calling the interpreter. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. This is Rafael Barreras, State Certified Court Interpreter. I have been previously sworn.
Good afternoon, it's Judge Unsavage. I'm doing first appearances. Can you please help us with that?
Certainly, Your Honor.
Great. This is 23 CF 802, Kevin De Jesus Corret. If you can ask him if he can hear you, please, and to say his name.
Buenas tardes, caballero. ¿Usted me escucha? Por favor, dígame su nombre despacito y en voz alta, por favor.
Kevin A. de Jesús Curet.
Kevin A. de Jesus Curet.
Thank you. Mr. De Jesus, you were arrested on a warrant. Okay.
Vamos a excusar lectura de cargos.
The Public Defender's Office is qualified to represent you. Do you wish for them to represent you?
Caballero, las oficinas del defensor público han sido designados para que los represente usted. ¿Usted desea que ellos los representen?
Sí.
Yes.
So the public defender has asked me not to say the 6 counts of why you were arrested.
El abogado defensor público me ha indicado que no desea que le lea a usted los 6 cargos por lo cual usted fue arrestado.
Are you in agreement with that?
¿Usted está de acuerdo con eso?
Sí, estoy de acuerdo con eso.
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay. I want to ask you a yes or no question.
Quiero hacer una pregunta que simplemente necesito una respuesta de sí o no.
I'm not asking about details of the alleged violations.
No quiero, estoy pidiendo detalles de la presunto incumplimiento.
I just want to know yes or no, were you told the reasons why you were arrested?
Sí o no, a usted le dijeron la razón por la cual fue arrestado.
No.
No.
Okay, so counsel, it's hard to waive the reading of his charges if he's not told the reason why he's detained.
Licenciado, se causa dificultad en excusar la lectura de cargos si a él ya no se le ha indicado por qué fue arrestado.
And they have a moment to show them the
Does he read English?
Si me permite un momento. Bueno, él lee inglés,
Sí, un poco.
a little bit,
Okay, you could show him.
se lo puede mostrar.
So, Mr. Macri, you think it's different on this side, huh? But it's not something you really know or can appreciate till you're viewing it, right? I remember thinking that once I took this job. Yeah. Okay, so Mr. De Jesus, have you now had an opportunity to see why you were arrested?
Señor de Jesús, ¿ya usted ahora ha tenido oportunidad de ver por qué fue arrestado?
Sí.
Yes.
And you are okay with me not saying it out loud?
¿Y usted está de acuerdo en que yo no lo diga en voz alta?
Sí, es correcto. Estoy de acuerdo.
Yes, that's correct. I agree.
Okay, so the judge who issued the warrant found probable cause for your arrest.
El juez que emitió la orden determinó que existía indicios razonables para su arresto.
And I now have to consider setting bonds on these charges.
Ahora yo tengo que considerar cómo voy a programar las fianzas en estos cargos.
And it looks like you are also on probation in case number 21 CF 394.
Y también aparece que usted está bajo libertad vigilada en el caso 21 CF 394.
I believe it's a suspended sentence for which you were put on probation for 10 years.
Y es una sentencia suspendida por lo cual lo colocaron usted en libertad vigilada por 10 años.
Which began on January 13th of this year.
Que comenzó el día 13 de enero de este año.
Besides that, is there anything from PTR history-wise?
Más allá de eso, ¿hay algún historial de parte del Departamento de Libertad Provisional?
From the state of Florida.
A little bit louder.
From the state of Florida, it's the same charge that he's out on, well, he's on probation 21 CF 394.
Right.
En el estado de la Florida es el mismo cargo por lo cual se encuentra en libertad vigilada 21 CF 394.
Out of Texas, 2018, burglary of a vehicle,
En Texas, en el 2018, allanamiento de un vehículo.
and he was sentenced to 1 year, 15 months, and he was released from probation 11/16/2022.
Fue sentenciado a 1 año y 15 meses. Fue liberado a libertad vigilada el día 16 de noviembre del año 2022.
That's it.
On the 6 counts for which you were just arrested, bond is $1,000 in each count.
Por los 6 cargos por los cuales usted fue arrestado, la fianza será $1,000 en cada cargo.
So 6,000 total.
Entonces un saldo total de $6,000.
And the court finds an on-view violation of probation in 21 CF 394.
Y el tribunal el tribunal estima que hay un incumplimiento de libertad vigilada en el caso 21 CF 394.
And you're being remanded in that case and bond is temporarily set at 0.
Y usted será detenido en ese caso y la fianza estará programada sin derecho a fianza en este momento.
Probation has 10 days within which to file the appropriate affidavit or you may be considered releasable.
El Departamento de Libertad Vigilada tiene 10 días para entablar un affidavit, si no usted será liberado en ambos.
Considered releasable but not automatically released.
Bueno, se puede considerar su liberación, pero no liberado automáticamente.
For the record, he meets criteria under Jessica Lunsford Act.
Para que conste en acta, él cumple los requisitos bajo la ley de Jessica Lunsford.
And your next court date will be on demand.
Tu próxima comparecencia cuando sea programada.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Anybody else in Spanish?
¿Puedo hacerle una pregunta?
Can I ask you a question?
You want to maybe talk to your lawyer first.
Primero mejor hable con su abogado.
Yeah, but does anybody else need an interpreter? But really needs an interpreter, not like just suddenly forgot how to speak English.
Is it Jose Cervita Ferrata?
Okay. Good. This gentleman can ask you his question while I look up the other case.
He is in the Wall Street.
Thank you.
He has a private attorney.
Okay. Is the private attorney here?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
I did call the office, but I didn't.
gotcha. Okay, sir, I need to know whether or not your lawyer wants me to ask this question, or wants you to ask this question.
Señor, necesito saber si su abogado quiere o no quiere que usted me haga esta pregunta.
Counsel?
Sí.
So his question was about your determination of on-view violation of probation. And I was explaining to him that his probation officer had 10 days to act on that on-view violation before any bond would release him from custody.
Correct.
Él había preguntado sobre su incumplimiento de libertad vigilada. Le expliqué que su agente de libertad vigilada tiene 10 días para entablar la documentación para ver si tiene derecho a salir bajo fianza.
And that's correct.
Y eso está correcto.
Entonces, antes de hacer el pago de la fianza, ¿necesito esperar los 10 días o cómo sería el proceso?
So before I'm able to pay the bond and get out, I have to wait 10 days, or what's the process?
You have no bond until there is an order saying you have a bond.
No tiene derecho a fianza hasta que se emita la orden indicando que tiene fianza.
In the violation of probation.
En el cargo de incumplimiento de libertad
And
vigilada.
then you can meet with your lawyer and they'll explain the process to you.
Y entonces reúnese con su abogado, le pueden explicar a usted cómo es que funciona el proceso.
Okay, thank you. Jose Tarifa Peraza, 21 CF 3427.
Attorney of record is Richard A. Perez.
Good afternoon, sir. Please say your name.
Buenas tardes, caballero. Por favor, dígame su nombre despacito y en voz alta, por favor.
José Armando Tarifa Peraza.
José Armando Tarifa Peraza.
Mr. Tarifa, you were arrested on a capias for failure to appear,
Señor Tarifa, usted fue arrestado por una orden que fue emitida por falta de comparecencia,
issued by Judge Beamer.
que fue emitida por la juez Beamer.
And Judge Beamer set your bond at 0.
Y el juez Beamer ha determinado que no tiene derecho a fianza en este momento.
Your next court date will be
March 31st in courtroom 5A at 9 a.m.
Próxima comparecencia el 31 de marzo, sala 5 a las 9 de la mañana.
Thank you.
Gracias.
I think that's all for Spanish. Let me confirm with the public defender. One more person. Is it Margarito Lopez?
Yes, sir.
We don't have a case number for this one? Oh, they're out of counties. Yeah,
And if you can just say the out of
I will. Yeah.
court reporting this.
Is this one up here?
No, it's the one that'll be.
Oh, the warrant number?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Good afternoon, sir. Please say your name.
Buenas tardes, caballero. Por favor, dígame su nombre despacio y en voz alta, por favor.
Buenas tardes, Margarita López Pérez.
Good afternoon, Margarito López Pérez.
So for the record, these are 3 Polk County warrants.
Para que consten actas, estas son 3 órdenes de arresto mediante el condado de Polk.
They appear to be all violations of probation cases.
Todo parece ser casos de incumplimiento de libertad vigilada.
They all are set with a 0 bond.
Todos están programados sin derecho a fianza en este momento.
The Polk County case numbers are, if I can read it because the clerk stamped over it.
I can read it for you.
I think it's CT 19008-321-WH.
El número de casos CT 19008321WH.
The next case is MM 19009095WH.
Próximo caso MM 19009095WH.
And the third is CT 18009827WH.
Y el último caso CT 18009827WH.
Now, Mr. Lopez, we're going to let Polk County know you are in custody with us, and they will make arrangements to come and pick you up.
Señor López Pérez, le vamos a avisar al condado de Polk que usted está detenido acá y ellos harán los trámites para venir a buscarlo.
They didn't give me any court dates for Polk County, so I can't tell you when your next court appearance will be.
Ellos no me han indicado cuáles son sus próximas fechas de comparecencia en el tribunal, por lo tanto no se lo puedo indicar.
If you do need a public defender, they'll have to appoint one for you in Polk County.
Si usted necesita los servicios de un defensor público, eso se lo tendrán que designar en el condado de Polk.
Okay? Thank you.
Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you to the interpreter.
You're welcome, Your Honor. Have a good afternoon.
You too. Give me 1 minute over there at the jail. I'll be right back on the record. Thank you. All right, Elvin Bowman or Bowman?
I didn't have an application for this defendant.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you for letting me know.
He's at the hospital, Your Honor.
Oh, okay. So then he's gonna have to be reset when he's available. For the record, though, the clerk just told me he didn't get an application, she didn't get an application for PD. So, you all may want to find out whether or not he needs the services of the public defender. He does have an out-of-county warrant, and it's a 0, so I don't know what they're gonna be doing with that. So we'll have to reset it when he's at a hospital.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. David Loshaw.
He is reset.
Why? He's in detox? Okay, well, it's interesting, he's got a Lake County warrant and he's got local charges. I say interesting only because I know him from court, so, all right, he'll be reset when he's available. Brian Ortiz. Thank you. Good afternoon, please say your name. Thank you. Mr. Ortiz, you were arrested on a warrant out of Orange County. Your bond is set at 0. I think it's a violation of probation. They don't really give me all the details on these out-of-county warrants, but that's what I'm able to read off of this. We're going to get you transported over because it's the same circuit. As Osceola, do you need a public defender? Yes. PD will be appointed provisionally, and then we'll get you transported. They'll tell you your court date once you get to Orange County, okay? Thank you. Anthony Suarez Diaz. All right, for the record, he's also on an out-of-county 0 bond. He'll get reset when available, unless they pick him up in the meantime, and then he'll get I-8 in Orange County. John Roberts.
PD is already on this case, Judge.
Thank you. That is very helpful information. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I tried to look them up because when they're FTA, they should already know.
Good afternoon, sir. Please say your name. Thank you. Mr. Roberts, you were arrested on a capias for failure to appear at pretrial. Judge Karsten set your bond at $3,500. You already have a public defender appointed, so I don't need to reappoint them. And your next court date will be,
April 26th in courtroom 4F at 9 a.m.
assuming you don't post your bond, or is that if he posts?
That's his pretrial.
Okay, so new pretrial, you said April
26th.
April 26th is your next pretrial date. Thank you, sir. Truman White.
PD's already on this case.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Please say your name. Thank you. Mr. White, you were arrested on a capias for failure to appear. Judge Beamer set your bond at $0. Public Defender's Office is already appointed to represent you. Your next court date will be
March 27th in courtroom 5A at 8:45 a.m.
March 27th. Thank you. Byron Andrews.
PD appointed.
Good afternoon, sir. Please say your name. Mr. Andrews, you were arrested on a warrant for violation of probation. Judge Karsten set your bond at $0. Your next court date will be
March 23rd in courtroom 4F at 8:30 a.m.
March 23rd. Thank you. Jonathan Elvira or Elvira,
PD appointed.
he's in detox as well? Okay. For the record, 22 CF 3699, bond is revoked, and he's remanded in that case, and then we'll reset him for IAs for when he's available. Just to make sure that the record is clear, he'll be told this, there is probable cause for the new arrest, and that's the basis why I'm revoking his bond or his release. But I want to make sure he's remanded and zeroed.
Since you are finding PC on the new case.
No, you don't have to do that as far, I'm saying why I'm revoking him, because I do find that there's PC, but he'll be told all of that and have the opportunity to appear in front of a judge. But the 0 means he's not going to be able to be released. Okay. Wayne Anderson,
PD appointed.
thank you. Good afternoon, sir. Please say your name.
Wayne Anderson.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, you were arrested for domestic violence battery. I've read the affidavit. There is probable cause. PTR, any significant history?
2003 to 2008 robbery, battery, disturbing the peace, robbery with a firearm, carry and conceal weapon, disorderly conduct, fleeing and eluding. 2009 to 2014 disorderly conduct, possession of cocaine, battery, DV, drug paraphernalia, possession of marijuana. 2017 out-of-county warrant. 2019 kidnap, false imprisonment, cruelty towards children, child abuse, battery. 2022 municipal ordinance violation.
Do you know if any of those were convictions or just charges that came up when his name was run?
Some of them are convictions and some of them out of Miami, and we can't check.
Okay, and do you know if any of the other batteries or domestic batteries were the same listed victim?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so, Mr. Anderson, based on what I read in this affidavit, the court's setting your bond at $1,500 with pretrial release supervision. According to the risk assessment sheet, you do qualify for PTR with bond. No contact with victim, no return, maintain a separate residence, no weapons or firearms. Your next court date will be on demand, sir. That means they'll let you know. Thank you. Cesar Ferrer Perez.
PD appointed.
Yes, Your Honor.
Hi, good afternoon. Please say your name.
Cesar Eric Ferrer Perez.
Thank you. For the record, this defendant meets criteria under VFOSC, correct? Or no? No, sorry, my mistake. I read the sheet reversed. Yeah, I see that. Okay, so Mr. Ferrer, you are arrested for violation of a no contact order, which I read the affidavit. State Attorney stood up. Let me see if there's something she wanted to say.
Your Honor, I just wanted to advise the court that the ASA handling the felony case asked that we take no action on the pending felony case 23 CF 406 and ask for a low bond in
Okay,
this case.
and who's the ASA handling the felony case?
ASA Rachel Klein Peter.
Okay, so there is probable cause for the the violation of the no contact, let me ask PTR if there is any other history.
2009 to 2011, battery DV, failure to appear, burglary, unoccupied dwelling, criminal mischief, GT of a firearm, GT of a dwelling, loitering, prowling, of 2013, just VOP 2015, burglary, unoccupied dwelling, dealing in stolen property, false ownership. 2018, possession of controlled substance, possession of drug paraphernalia. 2018, no valid driving license, possession of a weapon, possession of ammo. 2020, grand theft auto. 2021 is sealed. 2023, that's the one that she just said no action on. They're taking no action. The 23 CF 406. He was out on PTR with bond.
Okay, so, thank you. If I don't take any action on 23 CF 406 and he remains out on that bond with PTR, can this case then also be on PTR or no? Because I'm not revoking
Because
it.
he's out on PTR.
Just because he's out means no. Gotcha. All right, I just wanted to make sure. All right, so Mr. Ferrer, the state attorney's office is asking me to not take any action to revoke the felony, so that's on them. If they say they don't want me to do it, then I won't. Because I don't know the strengths or the weaknesses of the cases. I don't know what the evidence will or won't show. They're the ones in charge of making filing decisions, and they're asking me not to revoke you. So I will grant that request. It's also, to my understanding, the listed victim is out in the hallway speaking to Ms. Kleinpeter. Oh, no, she's here? So I saw another lady out there.
That's a victim from another case.
Oh, I apologize. Okay, I did see Ms. Kleinpeter come in. Okay. Ma'am, do you have any objection to what they're asking me to do?
I'm not really sure
What it means? Okay, so because somebody is in the middle of a criminal charge and they are released on a bond, if they get arrested for something new, the other case, the bond can be taken away and set at 0. So then he would stay in jail because he would get his bond on the other charge canceled, revoked. The state attorney is saying, Judge, we're asking you to not do that. Do not put him into custody on that other case. He can stay out on the bond that he had set from before. But you're the listed victim in both cases. So do you have any objection to me not keeping him in jail on the other charge? Okay. And are you Linda? Yes. Okay. So, Mr. Ferrer, in the new arrest, bond is going to be set at $1,000. And I'm going to order you to abide by all of the conditions of your release in 23 CF 406, which means no contact with Linda. And it doesn't matter that you guys want to have contact with each other. There's a court order that says you can't. What's your question?
How do we get that remanded, or can we get a no hostile contact?
You have to, with your lawyer, file a motion. That will get scheduled in front of the felony judge who's hearing that specific case, and then the judge will make that decision. But for now, until it's changed, it is what it is, and you have to follow it.
Okay, so anyone can bond me out as long as it's not my wife or fiance?
Yes.
So they can go across the street, what is it, if it's $1,000, it'd be 100, right?
If that's what they're gonna give you, yeah.
All right, thank you, miss.
You're welcome. But it doesn't, I want to make sure you both understand. It doesn't matter if she says she's okay with you being around her, because my reading of this is that you all came to court on some kind of other case and you were sitting next to each other, and Judge Arendis figured out with help that you weren't supposed to be sitting next to each other. So even if you want to, you can't until the judge signs an order saying otherwise. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and then you said public defender is approved already? All right, so PD is on both of these cases?
I think it's on the other one, let me just double check.
Okay. I just want to make sure it doesn't come back later. Oh, the judge let him out and judge didn't remand him and it's all the judge's fault that something horrible happened.
No, the PD is also on 23.
All right, thank you. Next court date on demand. Dewana Howard,
PD appointed?
thank you. Good afternoon, please say your name.
Dawn Latrice Howard.
Thank you. Ms. Howard, you were arrested for domestic battery by strangulation and domestic violence. I've read the affidavit, and there is probable cause. PTR, any of the history?
Between 2012, 2017, petty theft, battery, and aggravated battery.
Same
Unknown-
victim?
Unknown if it's the same victim.
Unknown, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Bond in count one is going to be set at $2,000. Bond in count two is going to be set at $1,000 with pretrial release supervision, no contact with the victim, no return, no weapons or firearms. Next court date will be on demand, Ms. Howard. Thank you. Samantha Johnston.
PD appointed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, please say your name. Thank you. Ms. Johnson, you were arrested for false name or ID by arrestee. There's probable cause. I know you're out on 23 MM 286 as well. PTR, anything else?
May I put an argument or, Your Honor?
Sure.
Under Florida Statute 901.36 subsection 1, for the crime of false name or ID by arrestee, the defendant must be under arrest or lawfully detained by the officer. In this case, the reason the officer was at the scene is because he received a call that there was a suspicious woman. The officer never stated what crime he was investigating Ms. Johnson for, and throughout that encounter was largely consensual. So any name she would have given would have been during a consensual encounter and not while she was under arrest or lawfully detained.
Thank you. State, would you like to respond?
Yes, Your Honor. At that point, the officer was investigating a suspicious person. She matched the description. State's arguing at that point she was lawfully detained, and she did give false information to Leo during the investigation.
Thank you. All right. PTR, you may proceed.
2022, she had battery, it was no pros. Failure to appear, 9 of 2022. Failure to appear, 11 of 2022. Resisting officer with violence in 2023. Out of New York between 2010 and 15, impersonation, but it don't say of what. 2016, 2017, driving while intoxicated, unauthorized use of a vehicle, no valid driving license, and operator leave scene with damage.
Bond will be stated at $1,000, no return to the scene. Bond in 23 MM 286 is revoked and set at 0. Next court date? On demand. Thank you. Chastity Lyons.
PD appointed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, please say your name. Thank you. So, Ms. Lyons, I have 2 police reports here. The first one is an arrest for DUI. The court's going to exercise a 24-hour discretionary pass on this. I'll tell the state exactly why. The one little box of narrative by Deputy Hansel is conclusions only. He needs to give some other information of the elements of being in actual physical control of a motor vehicle. The breath alcohol tests obviously would be elements of how to show impairment, but he just draws a legal conclusion that she was in actual physical control. I need details. So he'll need to update that. So 24-hour pass on the DUI. However, the second case was possession of cocaine, and there is probable cause for that. PTR, anything else?
2021, battery is withdrawn out of Osceola.
Okay, so your bond in the cocaine charge is going to stay at $2,500 with pretrial release and random drug tests to not possess or consume any illegal substances or any substances that are not specifically prescribed to you. If you choose to post the bond on the DUI, you can, and then you won't come back tomorrow. But if you don't post your bonds, you'll be re-seen tomorrow on the DUI.
Next court date for 23 CT 1237, if still in jail, March 30th. If out, April 3rd in courtroom 4A at 8:15 a.m. And for 23 CF 819 on demand.
Thank you. Jessica Meads,
PD appointed
going to basically be the same thing.
with the 24 hours.
Thank you. Yeah. Good afternoon. Please say your name.
Jessica
Thank you. Ms. Mead, so you were arrested for DUI, and pretty much it's the same conversation that I had with the lady just before you. There's a statement here where the officer just basically fills out paperwork and checks off boxes, but he draws a legal conclusion that I need to have a little bit more info. So I'm going to ask the state attorney if she's got anything else to tell me before I pass this.
Judge, in the DUI
A
charging.
little bit louder.
Sorry, in the DUI charging affidavit for this case, the officer does note that the defendant was involved in a crash. He does name a wheel witness for the crash, and he does check that the key was in the ignition of her vehicle.
Yeah, I saw that too, but it doesn't say there was nobody else involved. It doesn't say that the victim said, oh, I saw her. I read all of that and I thought, you know what, it's very conclusory and it needs to be spelled out a little bit more. And that's why I've never really liked these check sheets because they end up being a little lazy. So, Ms. Mead, what that means to you is the bond is going to stay exactly where it is. I'm not going to make a decision at this moment about the probable cause. I have the right to pass it for 24 hours. You have the right to post that $500 bond if you want to, not to have to wait to hear what I have to say tomorrow. But if you end up not posting it, you will be brought back for first appearances tomorrow. There's a chance you could be released without a bond. There's a chance that the judge who has first appearances tomorrow sets a different bond. But for me, I need more info at this time, okay? And then, so next court date will be tomorrow, but if you choose to bond out, it will be
If still in jail, March 30th. If out, April 3rd in courtroom 4A at 8:15 a.m.
April 3rd if you're out of custody. Okay? Thank you. Hipólito Pérez.
Denied above guidelines.
Good afternoon, please say your name. I think the button's pushed. Okay,
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Hipólito Perez.
thank you. Mr. Perez, you were arrested for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. There is probable cause. PTR?
No history in Florida. Out of New Jersey, 2006, ag assault, resisting arrest, dealing in a riot. In 2017, out of Illinois, battery, resisting peace officer. Out of New York in 2002, possession of forged instrument, grand larceny, possession of stolen credit card, criminal mischief.
Bond is going to be set at, out of curiosity, let me ask the state attorney if she knows or PTR, why did they zero it at initially? You don't always see these at zero.
If
Okay.
it has to do with, does it say that it's domestic violence?
No.
It's just aggravated.
It's an ag assault with a weapon.
With a weapon.
It alleges showing a firearm. It alleges a disturbance, but it doesn't allege that an actual touching or striking happened, so there's no battery. It's ag assault.
They did have it at 1,000. I don't know
Okay.
about that officer.
Bond is gonna be set at $2,500 with pretrial release. No return to the restaurant, which is Two Brothers on Dakin. No contact with the victim or any of the other witnesses present. Do not possess any weapons or firearms, and you must surrender all weapons and firearms while the case is pending. You don't qualify for public defender. The clerk said your income is above the guidelines. Your next court date will be on demand. Thank you.
Judge, do you want him to surrender those firearms? Or was it just released?
Sure. Agai Shamani.
PD appointed.
Thank you, Mr. Shimoni. You were arrested for possession of a controlled substance without a prescription, possession of paraphernalia, and then driving with a suspended license as a subsequent offender, second or subsequent. I've read the affidavits and there is probable cause. PTR, any other history?
2014, that's sealed. Another 2014 to 2017, grand theft, petty theft, hindering officer or firefighter, criminal mischief, failure to appear, harmful drugs, trespass, resisting officer without violence, VOP, and contempt of court and DUI. Then 2020, that one is sealed. 2021 DUI out of Brevard County. 21MM2595, resisting officer with violence, refusal to submit, and he's out on bond on that case.
In what case? Brevard?
Brevard, yes, ma'am.
All right, so we just need to let them know that he got arrested for a new charge. All right, so the possession of controlled substance will be stayed at $2,500. Paraphernalia will be stayed at $5,000. The driving on a suspended as a subsequent offender will be $1,000. No driving without a valid license. Your next court dates will be,
Next court date for 23 CF 822 on demand and for 23 CT 1243 if still in jail, March 30th, if out, April 4th, in courtroom 4A at 8:15 a.m.
thank you. You do. Ariel Streeter? For who? Streeter? 23 MM 622. Good afternoon, please say your name.
Ariel Streeter.
Thank you. Ms. Streeter, you were arrested for domestic violence battery. There is probable cause. PTR?
She's had no criminal history, Your Honor.
Your bond is set at $1,000 with pretrial release supervision. No contact with the victim, no weapons or firearms, maintain a separate residence. Next court date will be on demand. Thank you. And Daquan Johnson.
I didn't have an application for this defendant yesterday, so I'm not sure if he did one today or not.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir. Please say your name. Mr. Johnson, do you need a public defender? Yes. PD will be appointed provisionally. We just need to get you an affidavit because we haven't gotten one back from you yet. You were arrested for possession of a controlled substance without a prescription and possession paraphernalia. There is probable cause. Your bonds are stayed 2,500 count 1 and 500 count 2 with pretrial release and random drug tests. Your next court date will be on demand. Thank you.
Can you tell me the conditions one more time for Streeter?
And that's all we have, yes?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you so much. Have a nice weekend. Bye.
Right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Judge Ferry. I am with the Clayton County Magistrate Court, and I will be presiding over your first appearance hearing for this morning. So please listen up. I do have some announcements that will apply to all of you and some of you. Now, we are streaming live on YouTube, so that way the public can have access to these judicial proceedings. Now, this is what is called your first appearance. We are with the Clayton County Magistrate Court. This is not your trial. This is not arraignment. So you won't be taking a plea today. You won't be trying your case. I won't be taking any testimony or evidence. The purpose of today's hearing is for the court to inform you about the charges for which you were arrested, for the court to inform you about certain rights that you have today and throughout the rest of your proceeding, for the court to inform you about the status of your bond, whether you are given a bond and what that bond amount will be, and for the court to tell you about next steps, which will be your next court date called your preliminary hearing date. Also, I will inform you whether or not you qualify to have a court-appointed attorney appointed to represent you in your case. Now, you do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say here today may be used against you should your case go to trial. So please keep that in mind. Again, we are streaming live on YouTube, and so keep in mind that other parties that may have an interest in your case, such as the state and the prosecution, will have access to these proceedings. Now, during the proceeding today and all other proceedings that you have before the court, you do have the right to the presumption of innocence until the state proves your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You also have the right to an indictment by a grand jury for most felonies, or if you've been charged with a misdemeanor, you have the right to what we call an accusation. You also have the right to have a speedy and public trial by jury. You have the right to see and cross-examine any witnesses that are brought to testify against you. You also have the right to compel witnesses to come to court on your own behalf by issuing a subpoena to those witnesses. You also have the right to testify and offer any evidence in your own defense. However, you are not required to do so. And if you don't do so, there will be no presumption of guilt raised against you for your failure to testify. You also have the right to have an attorney represent you. You have the right to hire your own attorney, or if you qualify, the court can appoint an attorney to represent you in this case. Now, as far as the issue of bond, some of you will be allowed to post what we call an unrestricted bond in order for you to be released today pending the prosecution of your case. Now, this bond may come in three different ways: a cash bond, commercial bond, or property bond. The first option is the cash bond. If you decide to post the cash bond, you will pay the entire amount of your bond in cash to the Clayton County Sheriff's Office. They will charge you a fee. And once your case has been finally disposed of, that cash will be returned to whoever posted the cash bond for you. If you decide that you are not able to pay your bond in cash, the second option is to go through a commercial bonding company that is approved by the Clayton County Sheriff's Office. Now, the commercial bonding company charges different fees and rates in order to post the bond for you. I don't have their fee schedule. I do know that oftentimes they charge up to 15% of the amount of your bond. And they also will charge you any fees associated with them assisting you with your bond. So for example, if your bond is $1,000, if you call around and the bonding company tells you they charge you 10%, that means you'll pay the bonding company $100 plus any other fees that they have. And the bonding company will post your $1,000 bond for you so you can be released. So once I tell you what your bond is here today, it is your job to get on the phone, make some phone calls to some family members or friends or bonding companies, find out how much they'll charge you for your bond, and that is the fee you will pay to the bonding company for them to post the bond for you. The fee that you pay to the bonding company, that's the money that they make. You don't get that money back. The third option, if you don't have cash and you can't go through a commercial bonding company, the third option is you can use a property bond. You can post property as a bond. So if you have property or you know someone that has property with at least 3 times the net equity has to be at least 3 times your bond amount, then you can use that property to post bond. So if your bond is $1,000, the property that you want to use needs to have net equity of at least $3,000 in order for you to use that property to post bond. Now, some of you will, well, all of you will have the special condition that you cannot violate any laws while you are out on bond. Now, some of you may have additional special conditions on your bond that prohibit you from contacting certain people, prohibits you from going to certain places. For example, if I say that you cannot return to a certain residence or you cannot return to a certain facility or store or location or hotel, that means do not go back, period, while this bond condition is in place. Also, if I tell you that you cannot have contact with a certain person, that means you can't have direct physical contact. You can't have indirect contact. That includes social media, email, pager, phone, fax. You cannot go through another individual to try to contact that person. That means no contact whatsoever. Now, if you reside in the same home together, I may require that you not return back to that residence. If it's a shared residence, I will allow you to go back to collect some of your personal belongings so long as you are accompanied by law enforcement. But if I say don't go back, don't tell me, oh, but that's my apartment. If it's a shared apartment and residence with the named victim, you will not be able to go back while this bond condition is in place unless there's another judge down the line that modifies that bond condition for you. Now, if you violate this court's order, your bond will be revoked. You will not be entitled to another bond while you are waiting for trial. Also, you may have some additional charges brought against you. You may have a felony aggravated stalking charge or influencing a witness or any other charges that the law may provide. We do take these bond conditions seriously. If you violate them, you could be sentenced up to 10 years in prison and fined up to $20,000. Now, if you have family members who are going to help you post bond, your family member will be provided your bond amount after I have concluded the first appearance hearing today. What will happen is I will take each of your cases one by one. I will provide you with the information that you need. After I conclude with the very last person, at that point, I will complete the documents necessary to send over to the jail. Once I complete it, I will send it over to the jail. The jail will begin processing the paperwork. So that usually takes a couple of hours after we get done here today. All right. But if you have a family member that you want to use to help you post bond, but that family member is named as the victim on the bond documents and you can't have any contact with that family member, you can't use that person to post bond for you. You will have to find someone else to assist you with posting your bond. Now, some of you may be charged with offenses for which this court is not authorized to set a bond for you. If I tell you that you do not have a bond, I will set your bond hearing date for April 14th. Okay, April 14th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. I'll give you that date again if you are not given a bond here in this case. Now, some of you may be on active probation, and this court may not be authorized, depending on the nature of your charge, this court may not be authorized to set a bond for you if you are on active probation. We will give your probation officer an opportunity to make a determination whether or not he or she will take out warrants for probation violation. Now, the next court date that you will have is called your preliminary hearing date. Your preliminary hearing date is a probable cause hearing. What that means is that you will have a court date where you'll appear before the court, including the prosecutor and any other witnesses, and there will be a hearing to determine whether or not there's enough evidence to keep you incarcerated on your charges. Now, if you bond out before that court date, you won't have that preliminary hearing date because you're no longer incarcerated. So there's no need to have a hearing about whether you should remain incarcerated if you're no longer incarcerated. So I will give each and every one of you your preliminary hearing date, which is going to be your next court date. If you bond out before then, you won't have to come back to court. You'll receive a new court date in the mail. If you are still incarcerated by the time your preliminary hearing court date comes around, then you will be brought before the court again by Zoom video conference, just like you are here today. And there will be a hearing to determine whether or not there's enough probable cause to keep you incarcerated on the charges for which you were arrested. Now, I would like each and every one of you to raise your right hand. Let me swear you all in. Do you swear and affirm that any statements you give before this court and any statements that you have given on your application for a court-appointed attorney is true and correct to the best of your knowledge? If so, say I do and lower your hands. All right, thank you. Now keep in mind that although we are appearing by Zoom video conference, this is still a formal court proceeding. So I would expect each and every one of you to conduct yourselves just as if we are physically sitting in the courtroom. I expect each of you to have the appropriate courtroom decorum and respect. If I find you to be disruptive and I can't conclude your hearing, I'll just stop your hearing and reschedule you for another day where we can try again, okay? Allow me to give you the information that you need. Once you have all the information that I need to give you, then I will ask you if you have any questions. And if you have any questions, I will answer them at that time. All right, so the first female that I have is Ms. Ansley. I believe the name is Jada Ansley. Good morning. Are you Jada Ansley? Okay, and just speak up for me, okay? Because sometimes it's hard to hear through the mask. So Ms. Ansley, you have been charged with one felony possession of a Schedule I controlled substance. I have set that bond at $7,000. Do you understand what you have been charged with? Okay, your preliminary hearing date, which is your next court date, is scheduled for April 10th, 2023, 8:30 a.m. It will take place by Zoom video conference. If you bond out before then, you don't have to come back to court. You'll receive a new court date in the mail. I did receive your application for a court-appointed counsel, and I have appointed an attorney to represent you. You have any questions for me regarding the information I just gave you, Ms. Ansley?
You said 7,000?
7,000. Yes, ma'am. All right. Best of luck to you. Thank you. Yolanda Bowers. Good morning, Ms. Bowers. You have been charged with one misdemeanor battery. Your bond is set at $2,500. As a special condition, you are to stay away and have no contact with the named victim in this case, which is Whitney Bush. Do you understand what you've been charged with, your bond amount, and the special condition?
You said it's 2,500?
It's $2,500. That's your bond amount. Do you understand what I mentioned as far as the special condition? Okay, and speak up for me. I can't hear you through your mask. All right, so your next court date is your preliminary hearing date. I've set that date at April 11, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. by Zoom video conference. If you bond out before that date, that court date is waived, meaning you won't have to come to court on that date and you'll receive a new court date in the mail. I did receive your application for a court-appointed attorney, and I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions for me regarding the information I just gave you, Ms. Bowers? All right, you may be excused. Best of luck to you. Kashana Boyd. Good morning, Ms. Boyd. You have been charged with 3 misdemeanor offenses of battery. I've set each of those offenses at $5,000. You also have a charge of cruelty to children in the 3rd degree. I've set that bond at $3,000. So your total bond amount is $18,000. Do you understand what you've been charged with and your bond amount?
You said the first amount was $5,000?
For each offense. So you've been charged with 3 battery offenses. So for each of them is $5,000 for a total of 15. And then your cruelty to children is a $3,000 bond. So your total bond amount is $18,000. Understood?
I don't have like a indictment.
Ma'am, I'm asking you whether you understand that it's $18,000 total between all 4 offenses. It's a yes or no question. I can't hear you.
Ma'am, yes, I understand that. I have.
Okay.
3
All right,
charges.
so you have a special condition. Your special condition is to stay away from the named victims. Camille Boyd, Jabria Boyd, Trevor Jones Boyd, and Keomi Boyd. Those are the 4 named victims in all of these offenses. So there's a special condition to stay away and have no contact with those individuals. Do you understand that special condition?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now I've set your court date, which is your preliminary hearing date. That date will take place on, or that hearing will take place on April 11, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. It will be by Zoom video conference. Now, if you bond out before that court date, you won't have to come to court on April 11. You'll receive a new court date in the mail, which is your arraignment hearing date, okay? Now, I did also receive your application for a court-appointed attorney, and I am appointing an attorney to represent you in this case. Do you have any questions for me, Ms. Boyd, regarding the information I just gave you?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you may be excused. Best of luck to you. Ira Gonzalez. Ms. Gonzalez, you've been charged with one misdemeanor offense of battery. I've set that bond at $3,000. Do you understand what you've been charged with and your bond amount? Okay, you do have special conditions. While this bond condition is in place, you are to stay away and have no contact with the named victim, who is Oscar Meloroque. Also, it's been indicated on the warrant that you all have a shared residence where the incident occurred. And I am indicating that you cannot go back to that 3779 Grant Road, Lot 83 in Ellenwood, Georgia. If you do have belongings there, I will allow you to make an appointment with the Clayton County Sheriff's Office. You have to do that at least within 10 days of getting out of jail. And they can accompany you to collect any of your personal belongings that's not in dispute. Do you understand those special conditions that I mentioned to you, Ms. Gonzalez? All right, your next court date is scheduled for April 11th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. It will take place by Zoom video conference. Now, if you bond out before April 11th, you do not have to come back to court. If you're still incarcerated, you'll be brought before the court and we will conduct your preliminary hearing. I did receive your application for a court-appointed attorney. I am appointing an attorney to represent you, so you will have counsel present at all of your court appearances. Do you have any questions regarding the information I just gave you, Ms. Gonzalez? All right, best of luck to you. Teresa Hairston. Good morning, Ms. Hairston. You have been charged with one misdemeanor offense of simple assault. I've set that bond at $2,500. Do you understand what you've been charged with and your bond amount? Okay, you do have special conditions to your bond. That special condition is you can't have any contact with your mom, Cheryl Hairston. Also, it's been indicated y'all share a residence. I'm not letting you go back there while this bond condition is in place. So you cannot return to 7878 North Main Street, Building 8, Apartment P in Jonesboro, Georgia. Also, if you do have belongings there, you just need to make an appointment with the Clayton County Sheriff's Office within 10 days of being released. Have them accompany you back to that location and you can collect some of your personal belongings that's not in dispute. Do you understand the special conditions that I mentioned to you? All right, your next court date is scheduled for April 11th, 2023 at 8:30. If you're already bonded out, you don't have to come back for that preliminary hearing. You will get a new court date in the mail. So make sure you leave a good address with the jail intake when you bond out, so that way you won't miss receiving your court date in the mail. I did get your application for a court-appointed counsel, and I am granting you, granting that request, so you will have an attorney representing you in this case. Do you have any questions regarding the information I just gave you, Ms. Hairston?
The commercial partner, can you give me a little bit more information about that?
Say that again, I can't hear you.
The commercial bonder.
Yes, ma'am. So your bond is $2,500. So once we get done with this with this first appearance hearing, you can use the phone, make some phone calls to family members or either a bonding company. Let the bonding company know that your bond is $2,500. Then the bonding company will tell you how much they'll charge you to post the bond for you. So if you don't have $2,500, the bonding company will tell you we'll charge you 10% or we'll charge you 15%. If they tell you we'll charge you 10%, they'll calculate how much total you need to pay them. You may have to pay them $250 plus additional fees. And then once you pay that amount to the bonding company, then they'll post this $2,500 bond for you. Okay, the money you pay the bonding company, you don't get it back. And so once they post the bond for you, then you'll be released from jail. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so just tell whoever you talk to that your bond is $2,500 and then they'll be able to help you from there, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Kayla Mackey.
Ma'am.
All right, good morning, Ms. Mackey. You have been charged with a misdemeanor red light violation. I've set that bond at $500. You also have a no license on person. That's a misdemeanor. I've set that bond at $500. You have a giving a false name or date of birth charge. That is a misdemeanor. I set that at $2,500. You were charged with felony identity theft. I'm dismissing that for lack of probable cause. So you have your 3 remaining misdemeanors. Your total bond amount is $3,500. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as your bond and your charges?
I do, Judge, and I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Okay, your next court date is April 11th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. It will take place by Zoom video conference. Now, if you bond out before then, you won't have to come back to court. If you're still incarcerated for whatever reason, we'll bring you back up. We'll have a preliminary hearing to determine whether or not there's sufficient probable cause to keep you incarcerated. I did receive your application for a court-appointed attorney. I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions about the information I just gave you, Ms. Mackey?
No, I'm extremely grateful.
Okay, well, best of luck to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Delia Ramirez, I believe.
Ma'am,
I'm sorry, tell me your name.
Delia?
Delia, okay. All right, so you've been charged with one felony offense of entering auto. I've set that bond at $10,000. Do you understand what you've been charged with and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, your next court date is April 10th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. It will take place by Zoom video conference. If you bond out before then, you won't have to come back to court. If you're still incarcerated, you'll be brought back before the court and there will be a hearing about whether or not there is sufficient probable cause to keep you incarcerated. I did receive your application for a court-appointed counsel. Do you want to be considered or do you plan to hire your own attorney?
Consider for what?
A court-appointed attorney? Do you want the court to appoint an attorney to represent you?
Yes.
Okay, let me take a look. Okay, I am going to grant your request. So I will, you will have an attorney present with you for this case. Do you have any questions for me regarding the information I just gave you?
Yes, I just want to tell you that on the application, I specifically dedicate,
Is that a question? Is that a question? Do you have any questions?
No, sir.
No, oh, no question?
No.
Okay, all right.
Reed.
Okay, so I have Reed, Yolanda Reed.
Yes.
All right, good morning, Ms. Reed. Okay, so you have been charged with 2 felony offenses of terroristic threats. I've set that bond at $5,000 apiece. Also, you have a misdemeanor charge of simple assault. I've set that at $2,000. You have a misdemeanor charge of disorderly conduct. I've set that at $1,500. So your total bond amount is $13,500. Do you understand what you've been charged with and your bond amount?
Yes.
Okay, I do have a special condition on your bond. Okay, that special condition is to not return to the Country Inn and Suite that's located at 2192 Mount Zion Parkway in Jonesboro, Georgia. Do you have any personal belongings that you need to collect from there?
Not on me. I mean, they're not with me. They're with
Okay.
somebody else.
Okay, because I can allow you to go back with law enforcement to collect any belongings if you have any there.
That's trash.
Okay. All right. Your next court date is scheduled for April 10th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. by Zoom video conference. If you're bonded out by then, you don't have to come back to court. If you're still incarcerated, you'll be brought before the court by Zoom video conference, and we will conduct your preliminary hearing. I did receive your application for a court-appointed attorney. I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions regarding the information I just gave you, Ms. Reed?
No.
Okay, you may be excused. Tina Robinson. Good morning, Ms. Robinson. You've been charged with 2 misdemeanors, obstruction of an officer. I've set that bond at $2,000, and public drunkenness. That bond is set at $1,000. So your total bond amount is $3,000. Do you understand what you've been charged with and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, your next court date is your preliminary hearing date scheduled for April 11, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. by Zoom video conference. If you bond out prior to then, you don't have to come back to court. If you're still incarcerated for whatever reason, you will be brought before the court again, and we will conduct your preliminary hearing. I received your application. I am appointing an attorney to represent you, so you will have the advice of counsel at your court proceedings. Do you have any questions regarding the information I just gave you?
No, ma'am.
All right, you may be excused.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Diamonds Watson.
Yes.
Good morning, Ms. Watson. You've been charged with 1 misdemeanor offense of child abandonment. That bond is set at $1,500. Do you understand what you've been charged with in the bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, your next court date is your preliminary hearing date. That's been scheduled for April 11th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. If you bond out prior to that date, you don't have to come back to court. You'll receive a new court date in the mail. If you're still incarcerated, you'll be brought up before the court. We will have a hearing to determine whether or not there's sufficient probable cause to keep you incarcerated. I did receive your application for a court-appointed counsel. I am appointing an attorney to represent you in this case. Do you have any questions regarding the information I just gave you, Ms. Watson?
Could you repeat the bond? I just want to make sure I heard it right.
$1,500. All right, best of luck to you. You may be excused. You're welcome. I think those are all the ladies. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. So I'm ready for Mervin Adderley.
There's another medical. Where's the other medical?
All right. Are you Mervin Adderley?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Adderley, you've been charged with 1 felony possession of cocaine. I've set that bond at $5,000. You also have a possession of a firearm during certain crimes. That's a felony offense. I've set that bond at $10,000. You have a misdemeanor reckless conduct. I've set that bond at $3,000. And you have a felony possession of a Schedule II narcotic. I've set that bond at $5,000. So your total bond between all 4 offenses is $23,000. Do you understand the charges you have been charged with in the bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so your next court date, which is your preliminary hearing date, is scheduled for April 10th, 2023 at 8:30. It will take place by Zoom video conference. If you bond out before April 10th, you don't have to come back to court. If you're still incarcerated on April 10th, then you will be brought before the court. There will be a hearing to determine whether or not there is sufficient probable cause to keep you incarcerated. I received your application for a court-appointed counsel. I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions regarding the information I just gave you, sir?
Ma'am, can you repeat the bond one more time, the total amount, please?
Yes, the total amount is $23,000. All right. Best of luck to you. You may be excused, sir. Antoine Butts. Good morning, Mr. Butts. You have been charged with 2 misdemeanors. It's improper passing. I've set that bond at $500. Also, possession of marijuana less than an ounce, that bond is $1,500. So your total bond amount is $2,000. Do you understand what you've been charged with in your bond amount?
Yeah.
Okay, your next court date, which is your preliminary hearing date, is scheduled for April 11th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. It will take place by Zoom video conference. If you're bonded out by April 8th, you don't have to come back to court. If you're still incarcerated, then we'll bring you back up. You'll have a hearing by Zoom video conference. And that hearing is to determine whether or not there's sufficient probable cause to keep you incarcerated. Your application has been received. I am appointing an attorney to represent you, Mr. Butts. Do you have any questions regarding the information I just gave you?
Yes, ma'am. Earlier they wrote my bond as $2,340 or $50, I think.
That's probably correct. So what happens is the sheriff's office will set certain fees. So you may have certain fees in addition to your bond. So your bond is $2,000. If they tell you it's $2,300, then that's probably the mandated fees that they have to assess. So that's probably accurate. All right. You have any other questions regarding the information I gave you?
No, ma'am. I appreciate it.
No problem. All right. Best of luck to you. Jonathan Clayton. Good morning. Are you Mr. Clayton?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Clayton, you've been charged with 1 misdemeanor offense of obstructing an officer. I've set that bond at $1,000. Do you understand your charge and your bond?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, your next court date is scheduled for April 11th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. It will take place by Zoom video conference. If you're bonded out by then, you don't have to come back to court. You'll receive a new court date in the mail. If you're still incarcerated, you'll be brought up before the court, and there will be a hearing to determine whether or not there's sufficient probable cause to keep you incarcerated. I received your application, and I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Okay? Do you have any questions regarding the information I just gave you? All right, best of luck to you. You may be excused. Sydney Clyburn. Good morning, Mr. Clyburn. You've been charged with 2 felony offenses, arson in the 1st degree and criminal damage in the 2nd degree. So your arson offense, that's a felony. The bond is set at $20,000. The criminal damage in the 2nd degree is a felony. That bond is set at $8,000. So your total bond amount is $28,000. And as a special condition, you are to have no contact and stay away from the named victim that was in the warrant, which is William Sturgill. So do you understand, Mr. Clyburn, what I've mentioned as far as your felony offenses, the bond amount, and the special condition?
I do have a couple questions.
Okay, do you understand it, or do you have questions about your charge?
I have questions. One, I forgot the bond amounts for what you said.
It's $28,000, $20,000 on the arson, $8,000 on a 2nd degree criminal damage. And then you were to stay away and have no contact with Mr. Sturgill. You understand those two? Do you understand that bond condition?
Yes, I have no problem staying away from them, but they have been terrorizing me, and they're lying on the warrant. So I want to see if I can use my replevin bond and surety bond for my Sesticate and Lingus Trust.
So your next court date, let me explain to you the next step. So the next step is what we call the preliminary hearing date. That date is set for April 10th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. Now, during that preliminary hearing, that is your opportunity to have a hearing to determine whether or not there's sufficient probable cause to keep you incarcerated on these charges. So at that time, the state will be present, you'll be present, any witnesses may be present, maybe the named victim will be present, and then there will be a hearing at that time. So any defenses that you have, any concerns that you have, you'll be able to address it at that time. Now, I did receive an application. I am going to appoint an attorney to represent you. So that attorney will be in contact with you, and that attorney will be present with you at all of your court appearances. If you're still incarcerated on April 10th, you'll be brought up before the court to have that hearing by Zoom video conference. If you're not incarcerated on April 10th, you won't have to come back to court. You'll get a new court date in the mail, which will be your arraignment. And at that time, you can plead guilty or not guilty, and then talk to your lawyer about how to move forward with your defense. Okay?
I'm definitely not guilty, but in regards to the bonding out for the Sesta K Trust, can I use my surety bond and or my replevin bond?
So if you want to go through a bonding company, I think you should call them and find out the details of how that bond works. Because your only options would be the commercial bonding company or a property bond. So let them know that your bond is set at $28,000 and see what you can work out. Sometimes they get creative in assisting people with their bonds. So that would be a question for the commercial bonding company. Okay. All right. Best of luck to you, sir. Monte Harris. All right, good morning, Mr. Harris. You've been charged with 2 felony offenses, aggravated assault, as well as possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. I am not granting a bond at this time on either offense. I am scheduling a separate court date to determine your bond. That court date is April 14th. April 14th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. will be your bond hearing date. You're also going to have what we call a preliminary hearing date. That hearing date is going to be scheduled for April 10th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. If you are given a bond, you will, at a minimum, have a special condition to stay away and have no contact with Jasmine Rivers. Also, there's going to be the special condition, if you're given a bond, to not return back to the 4154 Sweetbriar Lane, Forest Park, Georgia address. Do you understand what I mentioned as far as what you've been charged with and the status of your bond right now?
Yes, it's only one charge of aggravated assault.
It's one charge of aggravated assault and one charge of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. So you just have 2 offenses. You mentioned your next court date for you. I am appointing an attorney to represent you, Mr. Harris, so you will have an attorney present at all of your court proceedings. Do you have any other questions regarding what I just mentioned to you?
No, ma'am.
All right, you may be excused.
Next, come on down.
I have Lloyd Howe. Are you Lloyd Howe?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so Mr. Howe, you've been charged with contributing to the delinquency or deprivation of a minor. I reviewed the warrantless arrest affidavit. I am dismissing the charge because they did not list the named victims in this warrant. Now, it does not mean that they can't come back and amend the warrant to then list the victims and then arrest you on it. But based on what's in front of me today, I am dismissing it for insufficient probable cause. Once you get that signed dismissal, you'll be free to go. You have any questions regarding the information I just gave you, sir?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
You're welcome. Lind Izquierdo.
Ma'am, he was not feeling good this morning, so we had to take him to medical.
Okay, well, I am, his case lacks probable cause, so I'm gonna issue an order dismissing that. So I'll send that over. That's for Mr. Izquierdo.
Okay, I'll let him know.
Okay. All right, are you David Mattingly? Okay, so Mr. Mattingly, you have been charged with 1 misdemeanor offense of theft of services. That bond is set at $2,000. Do you understand what you've been charged with in your bond amount?
Come again?
Say that for me. Oh, so your offense is theft of services. The bond amount is $2,000. Do you understand the charge and the bond amount? Okay, your next court date is scheduled for April 11th, 2023 at 8:30. It will take place by video conference. If you're still locked up on April 11th, the deputies will bring you up and we'll have a hearing to determine whether or not there's sufficient probable cause to keep you in jail. If you have bonded out by April 11th, you don't have to come back to court. We'll send you a new court date in the mail. I am appointing an attorney to represent you, so you will have an attorney present. Do you have any questions regarding the information I just gave you, Mr. Mattingly?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you may be excused.
Go back to 12, next.
Terrence McBorough.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, sir. You have been charged with 3 misdemeanors. You have a violation of seatbelt law, that's $500. Driving on a suspended license, that's a misdemeanor. That bond is $1,500. And prohibited parking. So parking somewhere that was prohibited, that bond is $500. So your total bond amount is $2,500. Do you understand your charges and your bond?
Yes, ma'am. How can I do the property bond?
So as far as the property bond, you have to find someone that has property with net equity in their property of at least 3 times that amount. So hold on, let me tell you hang on. All right, so if you want to use property and that person has equity, the net equity amount has to total at least $7,500 because it has to be 3 times your bond amount. So you need to call around and figure out who you want to assist you with using their property to post bond, and you should be able to post bond that way. Your next, what's that?
I have property in my name.
Okay, and you have net equity of at least $7,500? Okay, so talk to the deputies there or the sheriffs there at the jail. Let them know you want to use your property bond, and they'll tell you how to go about doing that. Okay, now hang on, let me give you your court date. Your court date is April 11, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. If you are still incarcerated on that date, you will be brought before the court. We'll have a hearing to determine whether or not there is sufficient probable cause to keep you incarcerated. If you are no longer incarcerated, you won't have to come back on that date. All right, you will be given a new court date in the mail. I am appointing an attorney to represent you. So you will have an attorney to advise you throughout your court appearances. You have any other questions, Mr. McBorough?
No, ma'am.
Okay, best of luck to you. You may be excused. Brandon Phillips.
Ma'am, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Mr. Phillips. Thank you. All right, so you have several charges, Mr. Phillips. All right, so you have been charged with misdemeanor obstructing an officer, That bond is set at $1,500. You also have a misdemeanor giving false name, date of birth. That bond is set at $1,000. You also have a possession in violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. I am denying bond on that offense. And that's pursuant to OCGA 17-10-1. I'm showing that you are currently serving a 5-year probation out of Spalding County that started on September 29th of 2021. So you don't have a bond on that offense. The next offense you have is use or possession of a drug-related object. That's a misdemeanor. That bond is $500. The next offense is you have a possession of a Schedule I controlled substance in violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. I am not granting a bond on that felony offense for the same reason. Under 1710-1, you have an active probation out of Spalding County, so I'm not granting bond on that offense. Your last offense is a misdemeanor possession of marijuana less than an ounce. That bond is set at $1,500. All right, so your bond hearing date that I'm scheduling, it will take place on April 14th. That will be a hearing to address your bond issue. And then that time, your probation officer will be able to weigh in on the issue of bond. Your preliminary hearing date, which is the court date to determine whether or not there's sufficient probable cause to keep you in jail, that court date will be April 10th. So just remember those 2 dates, April 10th and April 14th. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as your charges and the status of bond on those charges?
Yes, ma'am. So the total amount of bond I got already, what, like $4,000?
So 3, 4, 45. So the misdemeanor offenses that I did give you bond on, those total $4,500. And then the 2 felony offenses, those are the ones that you don't have bond on. All right. I am appointing an attorney to represent you, so you'll have an attorney present for you on all of your court appearances. Okay. Best of luck to you.
Thanks.
Brian Roll, or excuse me if I'm mispronouncing it. Oh, okay, good. So you do have 3 offenses. You have a violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act for being in possession of crack cocaine. I've set that bond at $5,000. You also have a misdemeanor improper turn signal. That's a misdemeanor offense set at $500. You also have a misdemeanor use or possession of a drug-related object. I've set that bond at $1,000. So your total bond amount, Mr. Rowe, is $6,500. Do you understand the charges that have been brought against you and your bond amount?
Yes.
Okay, so your next court date is April 10th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. That will take place by Zoom video conference. If you are still incarcerated, we'll bring you up and you'll have a hearing to determine whether or not there's sufficient probable cause to keep you incarcerated. If you've already bonded out by April 10th, you don't have to come back to court. You'll receive a new court date in the mail for your arraignment. And I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions? Go ahead.
I have a question. You said it was a failure to make a right turn or a failure to use it, turn signal?
It says improper turn signal, meaning you were turning without use of a turn signal. Okay. All right. Best of luck to you, sir.
Next.
All right. Good morning. Are you Mr. Shakur? Okay, Mr. Shakur, you have been charged with several offenses. All right, so the misdemeanor offense is a dangerous drugs container. That bond is $2,500. Your next offense is a felony possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. That bond is $10,000. Your next offense is a misdemeanor being in possession or use of a drug-related object. That bond is $1,000. Your next offense is a felony possession of a controlled substance, a Schedule I substance in violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. That bond is $5,000. Your next offense is a felony possession offense of a Schedule II drug in violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. That bond is $5,000. And then last, you have a felony possession of a weapon during the commission of a crime. That bond is $10,000. So your total bond amount is $33,500. Do you understand all of the charges that have been brought against you and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am. Can I ask one question, please?
What's your question?
$3,300 and 500, 33 or 33.5, that's 10% of that, right? Or 10 to 15%.
It depends. So it depends because every bonding company is different. So you just have to call around and see what they'll charge you. Some of them charge 10%, some of them 12, some of them 15. But whatever percent they charge you, sometimes they will add some mandatory fees to that. So you need to take that into account. So just call around and see who will give you the best rate. Your court date is your preliminary hearing date. That's your next court date. I'm scheduling that for April 10th, 2023 at 8:30. If you're bonded out by then, you don't have to come back to court. If you're still incarcerated, the hearing will take place by Zoom video conference. And you'll be brought up and there'll be a hearing. And at that hearing, there will be the determination of whether or not sufficient probable cause exists to keep you incarcerated. Now, I did receive your application. I'm appointing an attorney to represent you. Do you have any additional questions regarding the information I just gave you, Mr. Shakur? I'm sorry?
I said, no, ma'am, thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Best of luck to you. Mr. Shepard Tigner?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, good morning, Mr. Shepard Tigner. You've been charged with several offenses. Your first one is reckless driving. Hold on one second. Okay, so your first offense is reckless driving. It's a misdemeanor. That bond is $1,500. Your second offense is a hit and run. Hit and run is being charged as a felony. That bond is $3,000. Your next offense is possession of marijuana less than an ounce. It's a misdemeanor. That bond is $1,500. Your next offense is is a felony violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. I set that bond at $5,000. Your next offense, you have another possession, being in possession or control or manufacturing or distributing, dispensing or selling in violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. That bond is also $5,000. Lastly, you have a misdemeanor offense of no license on person. That bond is $500. So your total bond amount between all of your offenses is $16,500. Do you understand your charges and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am. So if I have to pay about 15%, it's gonna be about $2,000.
Hold on, let me tell you. So if it's $16,500, and if you have to pay 15% of that, that's $2,475. But keep in mind, they may add on some other fees. So it could be almost $3,000, depending on which bonding company you choose. Now, your next court date is April 10th, 2023. That is your preliminary hearing date at 8:30 by Zoom video conference. If you're still in jail, the jail will bring you up. You'll have a hearing to determine whether or not there's enough evidence or sufficient probable cause to keep you in jail. If you've bonded out before April 10th, you don't have to come back to court. You will receive a new court date in the mail. I am appointing an attorney to represent you in this case, sir. Do you have any other questions? You're welcome, regarding the information I just gave you.
No, ma'am.
Okay, you may be excused. You're welcome. All right, are you Mr. Williams? Therese Williams?
No.
Okay, Mr. Williams, you have been charged with misdemeanor obstruction of an officer, misdemeanor terroristic threats, and misdemeanor simple assault. Just given your criminal history and your current charge that you're incarcerated on, I'm denying bond at this time. I am setting a bond hearing for April 14th, 2023. And also you will have a preliminary hearing on April 10th, 2023. At that time, for your preliminary hearing, there will be a hearing that takes place to determine whether or not there's enough evidence to keep these new charges against you. Now, the bond hearing will also take place on April 14th, and I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as the status of bond and your offenses?
No.
All right, you may be excused, sir. Jeremiah Wilson.
Remember what we spoke about, man? Yes, sir.
All right, so good afternoon, Mr. Wilson. You have been charged with a misdemeanor loitering or prowling. I am dismissing that charge for insufficient probable cause. Then you have a possession of marijuana less than an ounce. I did sign off on that charge. That bond is $1,500. You also have a felony charge of altered ID, marked criminal use of. I'm dismissing that for insufficient probable cause. And then you have a charge of being in possession in violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. I did sign off on that charge. That's a felony offense. So that bond is $3,500. So your total bond between the remaining offenses, which again is the possession of marijuana and the violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act, is $5,000 total. Do you understand the charges that remain and your bond amount? Okay, your next court date is scheduled for April 10th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. by Zoom video conference. If you bond out before that date, you don't have to come back to court. You'll get a new court date in the mail. If you're still in jail on April 10th, then you will be brought up by the jail and there will be a hearing by video conference to determine whether or not there is sufficient probable cause to keep you in jail. I'm appointing an attorney to represent you, so you will have counsel present. Do you have any questions regarding the information I just gave you, Mr. Wilson?
How much it would be if I paid 10%?
I can't hear you.
How much it would be if I paid 10%?
Oh, so call around, talk to the different bonding companies because they charge different percentages. So I understand it looks like you don't have any priors, so you probably haven't gone through this before. But what you need to do is use the phone, call some different bonding companies, or you get a family member to help you. Tell them that your bond is $5,000, and then they'll tell you how much they'll charge you to post the bond for you. So if they tell you 10%, then you have to pay them $500 and any other fees. And then it may go up from there. Okay, but just find out from them because I don't know how much they charge. You have any other questions, sir? All right, best of luck to you.
Your Honor, the next two we have needs the interpreter. One is the fugitive. Which one you want first, or you want both of them?
So we'll do both of them. Let me get the interpret. Well, as far as my announcement, because I'm gonna do the announcement again, no, I have to do two separate ones. It really doesn't matter. I'll take whoever's standing in front of me first. But let me get the interpreter on the line. So give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Yes, ma'am.
Hell, where are you going? Where you fit? The one.
Okay, Mr. Interpreter, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, deputies, can you all hear him?
Ready, Judge.
Okay, so Mr. Interpreter, if you can just raise your right hand, let me swear you in first before we begin. Did you swear or affirm that you would translate from English to Spanish and from Spanish to English in accordance with your training and experience?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Deputies, can y'all hear him okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, excellent. All right, Mr. Interpreter, I'm ready. Good afternoon, sir. May I have your name?
Okay, buenas tardes. Voy a ser su intérprete en español. ¿Me podría dar su nombre, por favor?
Bruno Rudín de Celis.
This is the interpreter. I hear the static on the line. I couldn't hear him.
Okay, no problem. I got his name though. He said Bruno de Celis. All right, so Mr. DeCellis. This hearing is what is called your extradition hearing.
Ok, entonces, señor, esta reunión es lo que llamamos esta reunión de extradición.
You do not have charges pending against you here in Clayton County, Georgia.
Ok, y usted no tiene ningún cargo pendiente aquí dentro del condado de Clayton en Georgia.
You have charges pending against you in the state of Minnesota.
Ok, usted tiene cargos en contra de usted, para usted y el estado de Minnesota.
And so you are being charged as a fugitive from justice.
Ok, y usted está tiene cargos como fugitivo de la justicia.
It was determined that you have a warrant for your arrest from June 9th, 2009.
Sí, entonces también aquí vemos que usted tiene una garantía de su arresto, que fue el 9 de junio del 2009.
Are you in fact Bruno DeCellis?
Sorry, this is interpreter. You were cutting out a little bit. May you please repeat that?
Yes. Is your name in fact Bruno DeCellis?
Entonces, su nombre es Bruno DeCellis.
No, mi nombre es Bruno, primer nombre, Rubin, R-U-B-I-N, espacio D-E, espacio C-I-L-I-S. Es un apellido latino doble. Es Bruno Rubin DeCellis. Right? Go.
Okay. So Bruno is my first name, and then I have two last names. So be Rodrigo DeCellis.
Okay. Is it Bruno Rebin DeCellis, R-E-B-I-N?
I'm going to tell you this.
Bruno Redin DeCellis. Redin is R-E-D-I-N.
No, I'm going to spell for you in English. It's R-U-B-I-N space D-E space C-E-L-I-S.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, so this hearing is being conducted pursuant to OCGA Title 17, Chapter 13.
Ok, entonces esta reunión está siendo conducida por el OCD del título 17 del capítulo 3.
As you have heard, it is alleged that you were charged with being a fugitive from justice as you have pending warrants in the state of Minnesota.
Ok, entonces, como usted había escuchado anteriormente, usted tiene cargos por ser fugitivo de la justicia, ya que tiene cargos pendientes de garantía en el estado de Minnesota.
Do you currently have an attorney representing you in this matter?
¿Y usted actualmente tiene un abogado que le pueda representar en esto?
No en este momento.
Not at this moment.
Okay, you have a choice as to whether you wish to contest extradition or to waive extradition and be returned to the state of Minnesota without going through the formal extradition process.
Okay, entonces usted tiene la opción de la que usted desea, donde puede ir en contra de del formato de extradición, o usted puede acceder y hacer una y puede ser de vuelta al estado de Minnesota para que no tenga que pasar por los procesos extra de extradición.
Before you inform me of whether you want to waive extradition, let me explain to you the following rights.
Ok, entonces, antes de que usted dé su decisión en cuanto a la extradición, déjeme decirle cuáles son sus derechos.
You have the right to be represented by an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to represent you.
Usted tiene el derecho de conseguir un abogado que lo represente. Si usted no tiene la posibilidad de tener un abogado, nosotros le daremos uno para que lo represente.
If you desire to contest the legality of this extradition proceeding, then you must file or have filed on your behalf a writ of habeas corpus.
Okay. Sorry, this is inseparable. May you please repeat what will he need to file, sorry?
Yes, if you desire to contest the legality of this extradition proceeding, you must file or have filed on your behalf a writ, that's spelled W-R-I-T, of habeas, spelled H-A-B-E-A-S, corpus, spelled C-O-R-P-U-S.
Ok. Entonces, si usted desea ir en contra de este procedimiento de extradición, de esta legalidad, usted tiene que archivar lo que llamamos un court of habeas corpus, o writ of habeas corpus, es lo que el procedimiento que usted.
You may file a writ of habeas corpus to contest the extradition, and you can only contest 4 things.
Okay. Entonces usted puede archivar este procedimiento de writ of habeas corpus, en donde lo puede ir en contra, pero usted solo tiene 4 opciones.
The first thing that you can contest is whether the extradition documents are in order on their face.
Ok, entonces lo primero que usted puede desafiar en este procedimiento de extradición son los documentos de extradición que estén en orden.
The second thing is you can contest whether you are charged with a crime in the state of Minnesota.
Entonces la segunda es que usted puede desafiar todos los cargos que usted ha tenido dentro del estado de Minnesota.
The third thing that you can contest is whether you are the person named in the request for extradition.
Entonces, la tercera desafío que usted puede hacer es que si usted es la persona con el nombre que está pidiendo por este procedimiento de extradición.
The fourth thing that you can contest is whether you are in fact a fugitive.
Otra cosa que usted puede desafiar es que usted sea un fugitivo.
You cannot contest the issue of whether you are guilty or innocent in this state.
Entonces, usted no puede desafiar el problema de que si usted es culpable o inocente dentro de este estado.
You are entitled to have the advice of an attorney in deciding whether you want to contest or waive extradition if you so desire.
Okay. Entonces, usted tiene la opción de ser avisado por un abogado si usted decide desafiar o aceptar este procedimiento de extradición.
If you waive extradition, the state of Minnesota will have 30 days to come get you. If the state of Minnesota has not picked you up in 30 days, you will be released.
Okay. Entonces, si usted acepta este procedimiento de extradición, el estado de Minnesota lo tiene que llevar en 30 días. Si todavía no aparece en 30 días, usted puede ser libre.
If you contest extradition, and the state of Minnesota is unable to extradite you within 30 days, you may be committed to the Clayton County Jail for an additional 60 days waiting your extradition.
Entonces, si usted va en contra de esta extradición, el estado de Minnesota, si no puede extraerlo a usted dentro de 30 días, entonces la cárcel, la prisión de Clayton, le va a dar 60 días más para que espere para la extradición.
Do you wish to waive extradition and be returned to Minnesota, or do you wish to have a formal extradition proceeding?
Entonces, ¿usted acepta este procedimiento de extradición y quiere devolver a Minnesota o quiere comenzar un proceso formal de extradición?
Voy a tomar la opción de regresar a Minnesota.
I'll take the, yes, so I'll take the option to return to Minnesota.
Okay, so you're waiving the extradition. Are you making this decision freely and voluntarily?
Entonces, usted está renunciando a la extradición. ¿Usted está tomando esta decisión personalmente y voluntariamente?
Quiero aclarar, por favor, de que quiero regresar a Minnesota. Sí quiero regresar a Minnesota.
Okay, yes, so I just want to clarify that I want to return to Minnesota.
Okay, so you will be provided several copies of the waiver of extradition form.
Okay, entonces usted va a ser proveído con copias de los formularios de la extradición.
You will need to sign all of the copies, and after you sign, I will sign, and you will be remanded to the custody of the sheriff.
Okay, entonces usted tiene que firmar todas estas copias y después yo firmo todas estas copias y finalmente va a estar bajo la custodia del sheriff.
The state of Minnesota will have 30 days to come get you. If they do not get you in 30 days, you will be released.
Entonces el estado de Minnesota tiene 30 días para poder recogerlo. Si el estado de Minnesota no lo recoge en 30 días, usted puede hacerlo.
Do you understand what I've mentioned to you, Mr. DeSellis?
Entonces usted está entendiendo lo que le estoy diciendo, señor DeSellis.
Sí, entiendo, pero tengo unas preguntas, por favor.
Yes, I understand, but I have a couple of questions, please.
Okay, what's your question?
Okay, ¿cuál es su pregunta?
La señora jueza dijo que podrían ayudarme con un abogado para yo tomar la decisión de si ir o no ir hacia Minnesota. Pero ya tomé la decisión de ir sin ningún asesoramiento.
Okay. Yes, so the judge told me that I have the right to take a decision with my attorney to return to Minnesota, but right now I take the decision by myself without needing any assistance.
Yes, understood, but Minnesota, the state of Minnesota has to come get you.
Sí, lo entiendo eso, pero el estado de Minnesota primero tiene que venir a recogerlo.
So the Clayton County Jail will not release you. They have to come get you. If they don't get you within 30 days, then you will be released.
Sí, entonces en la prisión del condado de Clayton le va a venir, no puede liberarlo usted. Primero tienen que venir a recogerlo en 30 días.
Understood?
¿Entendido?
Sí, sí, entendí. Y tengo otra pregunta. ¿Cuándo recibo los papeles que tengo que firmar y cuándo empiezan los 30 días?
Okay. Yes, so I have another question. So when will I receive the paperwork to sign, and from when will it start the 30 days?
Oh, so you'll receive it now. So as soon as we conclude, you will receive the documents now. You will sign, it will be sent to me. I will sign it today. So I'll probably sign it within the next 10 to 15.
Okay. Sí, entonces usted va a recibir las copias hoy en este momento. Apenas acabe y se finalice esta reunión, le vamos a dar los documentos para que usted firme. Después yo firmo y alrededor de 10 a 15 días ya estaría finalizado.
So once the jail receives the documents today, they will begin processing you and they will begin the extradition process.
Ok, entonces la prisión apenas reciba los documentos el día de hoy, va a comenzar el proceso con usted y también el proceso de extradición.
Do you have any other questions?
¿Otra pregunta?
No, solo una duda. El proceso de yo firmar y que la corte devuelva esos papeles al jail tarda como 15 días. Eso es lo que entendí. ¿Eso es así?
Okay, I know. So I have only a concern. So the process of me signing all the copies and then it will be report, all that process will take 15 days, or how does it work?
You will sign the waiver form today. I will sign that same form today. The jail will begin processing you today. The state of Minnesota has 30 days to come get you. If they do not come get you in 30 days, the jail will release you in 30 days.
Okay, entonces no, usted va a firmar el formulario de renuncia el día de hoy. Yo voy después firmar el formulario también el día de hoy y la prisión también va a hacer todo el proceso el día de hoy. Entonces, solo del estado de Minnesota tiene desde hoy hasta 30 días para poder recogerlo. Si no lo recoge en 30 días, la prisión lo dejará libre.
Okay. All right. Best of luck to you, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, Mr. Interpreter, we have one more person.
Okay.
All right, good afternoon. Are you Javier Romero?
Okay, hola, buenas tardes. Voy a ser su intérprete en español. ¿Usted es Javier Romero?
Javier Rodríguez.
Javier Rodríguez.
Okay, what is your date of birth?
¿Cuál es su fecha de nacimiento?
3 de julio de 1991.
Me dijo 3 de junio de 1991, perdón.
3 de julio de 1991.
Okay, so it would be July 3rd, 1991.
Okay, what is your full name? Your first, middle, and last name?
Okay, entonces, ¿cuál es su nombre completo? Su primer nombre, su segundo nombre y su apellido.
Es Javier Rodríguez Ramírez.
Javier Rodríguez Ramírez.
Okay, if you raise your right hand, let me swear you in.
Okay, por favor, ¿puede levantar su mano izquierda para poder comenzar?
No, it's your other hand. Raise your other hand, your right hand.
o su mano derecha.
Do you swear and affirm any statements you've given to this court and any statements you will give before this court will be the truth and the whole truth, so help you God?
Ok, entonces usted promete que todas las declaraciones que haga antes, durante y después de esta corte solo es la verdad y solo la verdad ante Dios.
Sí, lo juro.
Yes, I swear.
Okay, so let me understand what you're telling me, because you've given me two different names. Please repeat your first name, your middle name, and last name.
Ok, por favor, estamos en una confusión aquí. ¿Me podría repetir su primer nombre, de ahí su segundo nombre y de ahí su apellido, por favor?
Solo tengo un solo nombre, es Javier. Mi apellido es Rodríguez.
Okay, so I only have one name, that will be Javier, and then my last name will be Rodriguez.
Okay, I thought earlier you said your name was also Ramirez.
Miré anteriormente que también usted dijo que su nombre era Ramírez.
Sí, el segundo apellido.
Oh, so Ramirez will be my second last name.
And can you repeat your date of birth again?
Okay, ¿y me podría repetir su fecha de nacimiento, por favor?
3 de julio de 1991.
It will be July 3rd, 1981.
Okay, do you know Camilliam Whitmore?
¿Usted conoce a Camillian Whitmore?
No.
I think he said no.
Okay, hold on one moment for me.
Okay, un momento, por favor.
Judge, did they put an LE number down on that warrant?
That's what I'm looking up. Yeah, I'll give it to you. 087-9575.
All right, let me look too.
Okay. Hold on for me, Mr. Interpreter. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Is there a deputy around?
I'm sorry, what was that, Ms. Moultrie?
I was trying to speak to a deputy.
Oh, okay. Deputies, are you all here?
Yes, ma'am.
Deputy, this is Mary Moultrie. Is there somebody in classification? You know?
That's here right now in classifications, you asked?
I can't hear you.
Did you ask, is there anybody in classifications?
Yeah, I need to talk to somebody about this warrant.
I can call down there and see.
Okay, and I'm gonna try to. If you catch them before I do, let them know that I'm giving them a call.
Okay.
Judge, give me a few minutes.
Sure, no, go ahead. Mr. Interpreter, can you ask the gentleman what's his address?
Okay. Sí, señor, ¿me podría dar su dirección?
Oh, he's muted, deputies.
Sorry about that, Judge.
No problem. Can you ask him, Mr. Interpreter, what his address is?
Sí, señor, ¿me podría decir cuál es su dirección?
6009 Kingsbridge Road, Tucker, Georgia.
This is the interpreter. He was cutting out a little bit. I would like for him to repeat it.
Yes.
Sí, señor, se estaba cortando un poco. ¿Me podría decir de nuevo la dirección, por favor?
6009 Kingsbridge Road, Tucker, Georgia.
Okay. So it's 6009 Lil C, Tucker, Georgia.
Okay, I think he said Kingsbridge Road in Tucker, Georgia. Okay, thank you.
Okay, gracias.
What is it that? Maybe no contribution to the warrant. Hello? Oh, they're not here. So do you know who would be here for, somebody asked me, I think the information.
Deputy, this is Mary Moultrie. Can you come to the podium, please? Deputy King?
Deputy King's not here, ma'am.
Who am I speaking to?
Deputy Hernandez.
Hey, Deputy Hernandez, can you have the inmate step away for a second?
Nah, we good. Gotta track this.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Judge Ferry, and I am with the Clayton County Magistrate Court. I will be presiding over your first appearance hearing this morning. Now, we are streaming live on YouTube, so that way the public has access to these virtual proceedings. So please keep that in mind as you address the court. Now, this is what we call your first appearance hearing. This is not a trial. This is not a time for you to take a plea. This is not arraignment. The purpose of your court appearance here today is for the court to inform you about the charges for which you were arrested, the court to also talk to you about the status of bond, for the court to also determine what the next steps will be in your case as far as assigning a court date, which will be your preliminary hearing, which I'll explain later, and also for the court to determine whether or not you qualify to have an attorney appointed by the court to represent you. So keep that in mind. I want to tell you about several rights that you have here today and for the duration of your case. The main right that you have today is you have the right to remain silent. You don't have to say anything as it relates to your case. Should you give up this right, keep in mind that anything you say during this proceeding can be used against you should your case go to trial. You also have the right to the presumption of innocence until the state proves your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You have the right to indictment by a grand jury if you've been charged with a felony, or you have the right to an accusation if you've been charged with a misdemeanor. You do have the right to have a speedy and public trial by jury at some point. That will not happen today. Today is just your first appearance. You do have the right to see, hear, and cross-examine any witnesses that are called to testify against you. You also have the right to issue subpoenas to compel witnesses to come to court to testify on your behalf, should you choose to do so. You also have the right to testify and offer any evidence in your case if your case goes to trial. But if you choose not to do so, that is your constitutional right. There will be no presumption of guilt raised against you by not testifying in court. You also have the right to have an attorney represent you should you need the assistance of counsel. Now, as it relates to the issue of bond, the good news is that everyone on my calendar today will receive a bond this morning. All right. You can bond out one of three ways. The first way is a cash bond. If you have the total amount in cash, you can post that cash bond by paying it to the sheriff's office. The sheriff will add on a couple of additional fees. And then at the end of your case, after your case is finally disposed of, that cash will be returned to the person who posted it. So if your bond is $1,000 and I say you can post bond of $1,000, that means you pay $1,000 to the sheriff's department plus any other additional fee, and they'll hold that money until the final disposition of your case, and it'll be returned at the end of your case. That's the cash bond. Your second option is to go through a commercial bonding company. So if I give you your bond amount and you don't have the entire amount in cash, you can use what is called a commercial bonding company. They have to be approved by the Clayton County Sheriff's Office, and that commercial bonding company will charge you a percentage of your bond in order for them to post the bond for you. So using my example before, if your bond is $1,000 and you contact the bonding company and the bonding company tells you, we'll charge you 15%, that means you pay $150 to the commercial bonding company, and then the commercial bonding company will post your $1,000 bond for you, and then you will be released on bond. Now, the money that you pay the commercial bonding company, that's their fee that they charge for doing business with you. You do not get that money back. Now, the third option is a property bond. If you do not want to go through a commercial bonding company, you don't have the cash, you can post property. You have to find someone, or you yourself, if you have property with net equity in it of at least 3 times your bond amount, you can use property and post that property bond in order to be released. So again, using my example of $1,000, if you have property, your net equity must be at least $3,000, 3 times your bond amount. Now, all of you will have the minimum restriction that you must not violate any laws while you are out on bond. That's going to apply to all of you. Some of you, depending on your charge, may have additional restrictions, such as not contacting a certain person or not returning to a certain place. If I tell you not to have contact with that person, that means no contact whatsoever, no direct contact, no indirect contact. Do not contact that person by phone, by email, pager, DMs, social media, tweets, messaging, liking, following, whatever means that you would have to contact that person. Do not contact that person. You cannot attempt to contact that person through a third party. You can't say, hey, can you contact such and such for me? You can't do that. Also, you cannot go to that person's home, workplace, or school. So it does not matter the type of relationship you have with that person. If it's your mom, your child, your roommate, it does not matter. If I say stay away and have no contact, that means stay away and have no contact. Now, depending on your charge, you may also have the additional restriction that you cannot return back to a certain place. It may be a residence that you share with that person. I may say you can't go back there. If it's a shared residence, make sure you let me know if I don't already have it indicated that it's a shared residence. And what I will do is I will allow you to make an appointment with the sheriff's office at least 10 days after you've been released from jail. So that way they can escort you back to the residence to collect your personal belongings that are not in dispute. So I will allow you to go back just to get some of your personal belongings if I tell you you cannot go back to that residence. Now, if you violate these bond conditions, we take these violations very seriously. You will be rearrested and you will be held without bond. There may be additional charges brought against you of aggravated assault, influencing a witness, aggravated stalking, influencing a witness, or any other charges that the law may provide. You can be sentenced up to 10 years in prison. You may also be fined up to $20,000. So do not violate these bond conditions. We take them seriously. Now, for those of you that may be contacting family members to assist you with bond, your family members will be provided your bond information after we have concluded the hearing today. So I am going to go through the calendar. After I handle every single one of your cases, I will then complete the signed bond orders. I will send it over to the jail, and then the jail will start processing the documents and the orders that I send. So I usually tell people at the end of this hearing, give it a couple of hours for the paperwork to be processed. But your family members will be provided that bond information. Now, if the named victim on your bond is a family member or whomever that you're trying to contact to assist you with your bond, we will not allow that. We will not allow the named victim to bond you out of jail. You will have to find someone else to assist you with that. Now, each and every one of you, as I mentioned on my calendar, will get a bond today. However, some of you who are on probation may be on a probation hold. It just depends. We will give your probation officer an opportunity to weigh in and decide whether or not he or she will take out a warrant for a probation violation. So if you are on active probation, keep that in mind. Your next court date that I will give each and every one of you is called your preliminary hearing date. Your preliminary hearing date is a probable cause hearing. What that means is that we will have a hearing to determine whether there is sufficient evidence to keep you in jail. Now, every single one of you will get a preliminary hearing date. By the time that date rolls around, if you are no longer in jail, then that hearing gets waived, because the purpose of the hearing is to determine whether you should continue to remain incarcerated on those offenses. But if you've bonded out, that court date automatically gets waived. You do not have to come back to court. You will receive a new court date for your arraignment. Okay, and I will repeat this once each and every one of you come back before me. Now, I would like to go ahead and have all of you raise your right hands. Let me swear you in. Do you swear and affirm that any statements you give before this court or any statements that you've given on your application for a court-appointed counsel will be the truth and is the truth, so help you God? If so, say, I do, and lower your hands. All right, so I am going to have each and every one of you come up before me. Keep in mind, even though we are appearing by video conference, this is still a formal court proceeding. Please conduct yourselves accordingly. I will give you all the information that you need, and then at the end, I will ask you if you have any questions, and I'll take your questions at that time. All right, so the first person I have on my calendar is Deja Ashford. Good morning. Are you Deja Ashford?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning. So you've been charged with one misdemeanor offense of possession of marijuana less than an ounce. Your bond is $1,500. Do you understand what you've been charged with and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, your next court date, Ms. Ashford, is scheduled for April 11th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. It will take place by Zoom video conference, but if you're bonded out by April 11th, you don't have to come back to court, okay? You'll receive a new court date in the mail. And I am appointing an attorney to represent you in your case. Do you have any questions for me, Ms. Ashford?
No, ma'am.
All right, you may be excused, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Agatha Davis.
Right here.
Good morning, Ms. Davis. You've been charged with one misdemeanor theft by shoplifting. I've dismissed that charge for insufficient probable cause. You've also been charged with obstruction of an officer. I did sign off on that one. So that bond of obstructing an officer is $1,000. You understand the status of your bond and your charge? Okay. Okay, hold on. So you have the obstruction of an officer charge. That bond is $1,000, and I'm scheduling your court date for April 11th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. by Zoom video conference. I received your application for a court-appointed counsel. Based on your response, ma'am, it doesn't look like you qualify to have a court-appointed counsel, so you will have to hire your own attorney, okay? All right. Do you have any questions?
No.
All right. You may be excused. Best of luck to you. Lorena Fernandez. Are you Lorena Fernandez? Okay. You have been charged with 4 offenses. There is give me one moment. Okay, you have a misdemeanor loitering and prowling. That bond is $1,000. You have a criminal trespass misdemeanor. That bond is $2,000. Use or possession of a drug-related object. I've set that bond at $500. And you have a possession of a controlled substance, a Schedule I drug in violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. That bond has been set at $5,000. So your total bond amount between all 4 offenses is $8,500. Do you understand what you've been charged with in your bond amount? Okay, now you do have a special condition, Ms. Fernandez, and that is to stay away and have no contact with Pamela Thomas. Also, you can't go back to that incident location, 508 White Cedar Court in Riverdale, Georgia. Do you understand those provisions? All right, your next court date I have scheduled for April 12th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. by Zoom video conference. If you're bonded out by April 12th, you don't have to come back to court because that court date is automatically waived. I am appointing an attorney to represent you as well. Do you have any questions for me, Ms. Fernandez? All right, you may be excused. Dorian Harris. Dorian Harris. Good morning, Ms. Harris. You've been charged with 3 misdemeanors. There is a simple battery, family violence. I've set that bond at $3,000. Criminal trespass, family violence. I've set that bond at $2,000. Criminal trespass, family violence. That's another charge. I've set that bond at $2,000. So your total bond amount is $7,000. Do you understand your charges and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now I did include in here a special condition. You can't have any contact with your daughter, Mikhail Harris, while this bond condition is in place. Okay, do you understand that, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, your next court date is scheduled for April 11th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. by Zoom video conference. If you've bonded out by that court date, you don't have to come back to jail. You don't have to come back to court. You'll receive a new court date in the mail. I am appointing an attorney to represent you as well, Ms. Harris. Do you have any questions for me?
Could you tell me the total amount of bond?
$7,000.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Tiana Jackson.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Ms. Jackson. You have been charged with 4 offenses. You have a distracted driving in violation of the hands-free driving law. That bond is $500. Also, possession of marijuana less than an ounce. That bond is $1,500. You have a felony charge of being in possession of a Schedule I drug in violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. That bond is $3,000. You also have a felony charge of being in possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime, and that bond is $5,000. So your total, your total bond amount is $10,000. Do you understand your charges and your bond amount? Okay, your next court date is your preliminary hearing date. I've scheduled that for April 12th, 2023 at 8:30 by Zoom video conference. If you've already bonded out by April 12th, you don't have to come back to court. You'll receive a new court date in the mail. I am appointing an attorney to represent you as well, Ms. Jackson. Do you have any questions for the court? I'm sorry? Okay, you may be excused. Javante Walker.
That's the mail.
Oh, Javante. Oh, okay. And Lavonda Williams. All right, good morning, Ms. Williams. You've been charged with 2 misdemeanors, simple battery. I've set that bond at $3,000. Criminal trespass, family violence. I've set that bond at $2,000. So your total bond amount is $5,000. Do you understand your charges and your bond? Okay, you do have a special condition, and that is to stay away and have no contact with Jaya Rayvon Rogers. Do you all live in the same household?
I purchased that house 2 years ago. I was letting her stay with me until she moved into an apartment. And
Are you all related? What's your relation to Rogers?
It's my daughter.
Okay, so I'm going to just leave it as not having any contact with her. I'm not gonna say you can't go back to your residence. I won't say that. But you're gonna have to figure something out. I'm not gonna limit you from going back to your residence. I'm not kicking you out of your house, but you can't have contact with her until another judge modifies this bond condition or until your case is resolved, okay? All right, so your next court date is your preliminary hearing date, and I'm going to set that for April 11th, 2020. Yes, April 11th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. It will take place by Zoom video conference. Now, if you're bonded out by April 11th, you don't have to come back to court for that. If you are still incarcerated, we'll bring you up before the court and we'll conduct your preliminary hearing. But if you're bonded out, you'll receive a new court date in the mail. And I have appointed an attorney to represent you in this proceeding. So you will have counsel present at court. Do you have any questions for the court?
You said 5,000, right?
5,000 total. Yes, ma'am. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then we have one more, right? Waneza Youngblood. Okay, are you Miss Youngblood? All right, you've been charged with 1 misdemeanor offense. That charge is battery, and I've that's battery family violence. I've set that bond at $3,000. Do you understand what you've been charged with in your bond?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, as a special condition, I'm not allowing you to have any contact with your mom, Akeisha Harris, while this bond condition is in place. Okay, so just no direct contact, no indirect contact, unless another judge modifies this order, stay away from her. Your next court date is April 11th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. It will take place by Zoom video conference. If you are bonded out by April 11th, you don't have to come back to court and you'll receive a new court date in the mail. Okay, I am appointing an attorney to represent you as well, Ms. Youngblood. Do you have any questions for me? All right, you may be excused. Thank you. All right, George Andrews.
You could just take.
Good morning, Mr. Andrews. You've been charged with 1 misdemeanor battery family violence. I set that bond at $5,000. Do you understand what you've been charged with and your bond amount? Okay, you do have a special condition, and that is to stay away and have no contact with Tamara Sane Walker. And I'm not allowing you to return back to 3976 Honeysuckle Lane in Conley, Georgia. Do you understand those special conditions?
Yes, ma'am, but I do have a question.
What's your question, Mr. Andrews?
Okay, she moved out. That was my house, and she moved out of 396 Honeysuckle Lane. 2, we work at the same place, Greyhound. We work at Greyhound in Atlanta. So she don't no longer stay there at that residence with me no more. And that was my house.
Prior to you being arrested, where were you living?
At that she moved with me at 39 at Honeysuckle Lane.
I understand that. So you were living at 3976 Honeysuckle Lane in Conley, Georgia at the time of your arrest?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So I won't, hold on. Give me a second.
I'm sorry.
Hold on. Let me look at something. When did she move out?
She came and got her stuff probably about, let's see, about a week later.
I don't know when that is.
I'm from the initial call of the incident. She came a week later after that.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to leave the condition about staying away and having no contact with her on here. Y'all just have to work something out with your employer. I won't put in here that you can't return to your own house. But, you know, if for some reason she's there, you can't go near her. So keep that in mind. Wherever she is, you can't have any contact. You can't go near her. Okay. Your next court date is April 11th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. It will take place by Zoom video conference. If you're bonded out by April 11th, you don't have to come back to court. You'll receive a new court date in the mail. And based on your court-appointed application, I'm appointing an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions for me, Mr. Andrews?
No, ma'am, just, you said the bond $5,000?
$5,000, sir.
Okay, no problem.
All right. Okay, take care. You're welcome. Justin Baylor.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Baylor. You've been charged with 1 misdemeanor criminal trespass damage to property, and that bond is set at $3,000. Do you understand what you've been charged with in your bond?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, based on the warrant, I'm not allowing you to have contact with Kimono Cager. Okay, stay away. Don't have any contact with Ms. Cager until such time that another judge modifies this bond condition. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, your next court date is scheduled for April 11th, 2023 at 8:30. It will take place by Zoom video conference, but if you're bonded out by April 11th, you don't have to come back to court. You'll receive a new court date in the mail. I received your application for a court-appointed attorney, but you didn't put any employment information on here. Do you plan on hiring your own lawyer, or do you want to be considered for a court-appointed attorney?
At this time, I really wasn't sure because I have a lawyer, but I haven't been able to get in contact with him lately. So I wasn't sure if I need y'all help or who I was.
Okay, well, are you employed?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how much you make a month?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you share that with me so I can consider?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I make at least about $5,000 a month.
Okay. So yeah, you don't qualify, Mr. Baylor. So I can't appoint an attorney, but stay in contact with the lawyer that you're considering hiring and see what you can work out. All right. So as I mentioned, once you bond out, you won't have to come back to court on April 11th. You'll receive a new court date. You have any questions?
Okay, man, what if that changes? Like, I have a job, but what if I lose my job? Will I be able to
reapply? You probably can. I'm not, if you find out later down the road that you become unemployed, then you can certainly at your next court date address that with that judge and see if you can be reconsidered for a court-appointed attorney. But you need to bring some documentation, to support you saying that you lost your job or you don't have any income, okay? And then the court will take it up at that time.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Okay. Best of luck to you, Mr. Baylor. Justin Davis.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Davis. You've been charged with 3 offenses. You have driving under the influence. I've set that bond at $3,000. You also have a failure to maintain lane. I've set that bond at $500. And you have an open container violation. I've set that bond at $500. So these are all misdemeanors. The total bond is $4,000. Do you understand your charges and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, your next court date is scheduled for April 11, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. By Zoom video conference. If you bond out by April 11th, you don't have to come back to court and you'll receive a new court date in the mail. I did receive your application for a court-appointed attorney and you don't qualify to have the court-appointed attorney for you, okay? Just based on your income level, you'll be responsible for retaining a lawyer. All right, understood? Do you have any questions for the court?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, you may be excused, sir. Reginald Elliott. All right, good morning, Mr. Elliott. You have been charged with 4 offenses. You have a misdemeanor possession of marijuana less than an ounce. That bond is $1,500. You have a possession of firearm during a crime. That's a felony. That bond is $10,000. You have a concealing the identity of a motor vehicle. That's a misdemeanor. That bond is $500. You have a use or a possession of a drug-related object. That's a misdemeanor. That bond is $500. So your total bond amount is $12,500. Do you understand your charges and your bond? Your next court date is scheduled for April 12th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. by Zoom video conference. If you've bonded out by April 12th, you don't have to come back to court. You'll receive a new court date in the mail. If you are still incarcerated on April 12th, then you'll be brought up before the court like you are here today, and there will be a preliminary hearing to determine whether or not there is sufficient evidence to keep you incarcerated. I did receive your application, and I am appointing an attorney to represent you in your case. Okay, do you have any questions for me, Mr. Elliott?
No, ma'am.
All right, you may be excused, sir. Robert Fortson, you're welcome. Good morning, Mr. Fortson. You have been charged with 4 offenses. The first one is disorderly conduct. That bond is $1,500. Public drunk, it's a misdemeanor. That bond is $1,000. You have a felony charge, which is the terroristic threats. That bond is $3,000. And you have a misdemeanor obstruction of an officer. That bond is $1,000. So your total bond amount is $6,500. Do you understand what your charges and your bond amount? Okay, now while this bond condition is in place, there is a special condition. I'm not allowing you to go back to Pinstripes on Mount Zion Road in Stockbridge, Georgia, while this bond condition is in place. Do you understand that, Mr. Fortson? Okay, your next court date is scheduled for April 12th, 2023 at 8:30 by Zoom video conference. If you bond out by April 12th, you don't have to come back to court. If you're still incarcerated, we'll bring you up and we'll have a hearing to determine whether or not there's sufficient evidence to keep you incarcerated. I received your application. I am appointing an attorney to represent you, sir. You have any questions for me, Mr. Fortson?
No, ma'am, thank you.
You're welcome. Best of luck to you. Eric Garcia. Mr. Garcia, good morning. You have been charged with 1 misdemeanor, criminal trespass. I set that bond at $1,000. Do you understand your charge and your bond?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I am. Give me 1 second. All right, so Mr. Garcia, as a special condition, I'm not going to allow you to go back to the shared residence that you have with Ms. King. I understand that y'all are roommates.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
My little brother is the leaseholder of the renting of that house. He got an eviction notice for Venus King yesterday when I was arrested. So does that still mean I can't go if she's not there? Even if
what's the person's name? Is it Quanos King?
Venus.
Spell it for me.
Venus.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do, Mr. Garcia, I'm just going to leave it in here that you can't have contact with Venus King. Okay. So, because I don't know the status of y'all's living arrangement. If what you say is true, then as you've probably heard me mention earlier, I'm not in the business of evicting people out of their own home, but I'm going to leave in here that you can't have contact with Venus King. So that means if Venus King just happens to still be in that residence, you can't be near her or can't go back. Now, if Venus King is evicted, like you said, or leaves or whatever the case may be, then of course you can return to your own place. You understand that? Okay. Your next court date is scheduled for April 11th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. by Zoom video conference. If you're bonded out by April 11th, then you don't have to come back to court. You'll receive a new court date in the mail. And I am appointing an attorney to represent you. All right. Do you have any other questions, Mr. Garcia? Okay. You may be excused. You're welcome. Jacob Gatson. Good morning, Mr. Gatson. You have been charged with several offenses. You have a possession of marijuana less than an ounce. That is a misdemeanor. That bond is $1,500. You have a felony charge of possession of a firearm during a crime. I set that bond at $10,000. You have a misdemeanor concealing the identity of a motor vehicle. That bond is $500. You also have a misdemeanor license class violation. That bond is $500. And then you have a misdemeanor use or possession of a drug-related object. That bond is $500. So your total bond amount is $13,000. Do you understand your charges and your bond amount, sir? All right, your next court date is your preliminary hearing date. I've scheduled that for April 12th, 2023 at 8:30. It will take place by Zoom video conference. If you bond out by April 12th, you don't have to come back to court. You'll get a new court date in the mail. If you're still incarcerated, we'll go ahead and bring you up and conduct your preliminary hearing. I did get your application for an attorney, and I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions for me, Mr. Gatson?
I just have two questions.
What's your question, sir?
My first question is, with the violation of my class, my license of my class, I got a ticket for that. So why did I get a bond for that too?
So he probably did give you a ticket, but you can still be arrested on it. I don't have any information in front of me about a ticket. I just see here that this was included on the warrantless arrest affidavit. So, but I am setting a bond for that. The bond is $500.
All right, and my second question is, if I go through a commercial bonding company, could you please give me, if you do know the amount, could you give me an amount that the commercial bonding company are charging?
I don't know the exact amount, but let me tell you, let's say if they charge 15%, let me tell you what that would be, and then you can go from there. So your bond is $13,000. If they charge you 15%, that means $1,950. $1,950. All right. All right. You're welcome. Johnny Phillips. Okay, good morning, Mr. Phillips. You have been charged with 3 offenses. Theft of a motor vehicle, that bond is $5,000. Loitering or and the theft charge is a felony. Loitering or prowling is a misdemeanor, that bond is $1,000. Contributing to the delinquency of a minor, that's a misdemeanor. I've set that bond at $3,000. So your total bond amount is $9,000. Do you understand your charges and your bond amount? Okay, now I am including some special conditions to this bond. One is to stay away and not have any contact with the owner of the vehicle. His name is Xavier Rhodes. Also, to stay away from the minor and not have any contact with the minor, DeAndre Williams. As far as the gas station is concerned, you will not be able to go back to the Shell gas station on Flint River Road. That's 524 Flint River Road in Jonesboro, Georgia, while this bond condition is in place. So no contact with Xavier Rose, DeAndre Williams, and don't go back to the Shell gas station on Flint River Road. You understand those conditions? Okay, your next court date, which is your preliminary hearing date, is scheduled for April 12th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. by Zoom video conference. If you bonded out by April 12th, you don't have to come back to court. You'll get a new court date in the mail. If you are still incarcerated, then you'll be brought up before the court by video conference, and we will conduct your preliminary hearing. I am appointing an attorney to represent you in your case as well. Do you have any questions for me, Mr. Phillips? All right, you may be excused. DeMarcus Scott. All right, good morning, Mr. Scott. You have been charged with 4 offenses. The first one is aggravated assault. I've set that bond at $10,000. It's a felony offense. The second one is felony false imprisonment. I've set that bond at $10,000. Your third offense is a misdemeanor battery. I've set that bond at $5,000. And your last offense is a misdemeanor criminal trespass. I set that bond at $3,000. Your total bond amount is $28,000. Do you understand those charges and your bond amount, sir?
No, ma'am.
Do you want me to read the warrant out for you?
I don't understand the criminal trespass on when I live.
The criminal trespass? Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, so the criminal trespass specifically is criminal trespass damage to property. And it says that on September 27, 2022, that the offender committed the offense of criminal trespass by grabbing the victim's phone and throwing it on the ground. This resulted in the victim's phone, the iPhone 12, cracking on the backside. The victim estimates that the phone will cost $200 to repair. So it's because of the damaged phone. That's how you got the criminal trespass damage to property. Do you want me to read any of the other ones? Okay. All right. So as a special condition, you can't have any contact with the named victim, in this case, Ashley Smith. No contact directly or indirectly. Your next court date is scheduled for April 12th, 2023. That's your preliminary hearing. If you're bonded out by April 12th, you don't have to come back to court. You'll get a new court date. If you're still incarcerated, you'll be brought up and we'll have a video conference hearing to determine if there's enough evidence to keep you incarcerated on the charges. I did receive your application and I am appointing an attorney to represent you. You have any other questions for me, Mr. Scott?
Yes, you know what's 15% of that bill?
Yeah, give me 1 second, I'll tell you. It's 15% of 28,000 is $4,200. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Best of luck to you. Carlos Simpson.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Simpson. You have been charged with one felony offense of being in possession of a firearm as a convicted felon. I have set that bond at $15,000. Do you understand your charge and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so your next court date is scheduled for April 12th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. by Zoom video conference, and I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions, Mr. Simpson?
No, ma'am.
You're welcome. All right. Gregory Taylor. Good morning, Mr. Taylor. You've been charged with 3 offenses. You have a felony possession of a Schedule 5 drug in violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. I set that bond at $5,000. You also have a possession of a Schedule 2 methamphetamine in violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. That's a felony. I set that bond at $5,000. You have a misdemeanor offense of possession of a drug-related object. I've set that bond at $500. So your total bond amount is $10,500. Do you understand your charges and your bond amount?
Yes.
Okay, your next court date is scheduled for April 12th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. by Zoom video conference. If you're bonded out by then, you don't have to come back to court. If you're still incarcerated, we'll bring you up. You'll have a video conference like you're here today, and there will be a preliminary hearing. I have appointed an attorney to represent you as well, Mr. Taylor. You have any questions for me?
No, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Here, Humberto Tejeda.
How are you doing?
Good morning. All right, Mr. Tejeda, you've been charged with one felony possession of cocaine in violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. That bond I've set at $6,000. You understand your charge and your bond amount? Okay, and just stand back for me just a little bit. I can't even see your face. Okay, there we go. All right, no problem. Your next court date is scheduled for April 12th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. by Zoom video conference. If you're bonded out by April 12th, you don't have to come back to court. If you're still incarcerated, you'll be brought up for a preliminary hearing. I did receive your application and I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions for me, Mr. Tejeda?
No.
Okay, you may be excused, sir. All right, and then Dravante Walker. Okay, so Mr. Walker, you've been charged with 4 offenses. There's a misdemeanor loitering or prowling. That bond is $1,000. Your next offense is being in possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime. That's a felony. That bond is $5,000. You also have a felony possession of a Schedule I controlled substance. That bond is $5,000. You also have a misdemeanor of being in possession of marijuana less than an ounce. That bond is $1,500. So your total bond amount is $12,500. Do you understand all of your charges and your bond amount? Okay, your next court date is your preliminary hearing date. That's scheduled for April 12th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. It will take place by Zoom video conference. If you're bonded out by April 12th, you don't have to come back to court. You will receive a new court date in the mail. If you're still incarcerated, we'll bring you up for a video conference and we'll begin your preliminary hearing to determine if there is sufficient evidence to keep you incarcerated. I am appointing an attorney to represent you in your case, Mr. Walker. You have any questions for the court?
Can you tell me what 15% of my bond?
You said 15%?
No.
Hold on. Okay, so 15% of 12,500 is $1,875, $1,875. All right. Okay, best of luck to you, sir.